Chapter 38. Crane Hair Scholar, you are listening at Novel Full.audio. When Renha closed his sense of smell and avoided seeing Yin Hanjiang as much as possible. After 30 years of seclusion, he not only failed to find a way to recover his body, but as time went on, his thirst for the blood soul became even greater than in the past. When he cut off his 5 senses to cultivate, he even learned the method of using blood soul cultivation without any teacher. First, wrap the other person's body with the bloody mist, melt it into blood, and then guide the blood to flow through the cut marks. After 36 days of rotating it, the cultivator would be completely absorbed, not even dregs are left. Even his genie chi could be preserved without any loss. It takes at least 100 years for a Mahayana cultivator to cultivate this realm, even if he is gifted and meets countless divine opportunities. While it only took 3 days for a blood cultivator to fully absorb the skills of the Mahayana cultivator. If he changed to the art of soul carving during his foundation building period, and there were enough cultivators to absorb, it would only take less than a year to reach the lofty golden immortal. Within 10 years he could ascend to the immortal world and become a god. When Renha once said that cultivation of the righteous way was completely different from the cultivation of the demonic path. What was a demon? Within a world, as long as there was a demon, this realm would not birth to an inch of grass and all living things would be wiped out. This was the true demon. 3,000 paths and countless small worlds give birth to countless demons. The ancient innate gods worked together to seal 180,000 demons. After most of them became injured, they sealed the 180,000 demons in the demonic world. The only passage between the demon world and other worlds was the underworld blood sea, which escaped death. Yin Hanjiang received the order from Wen Renha and went to Altar Master Yuan to check the list of Shenyuan sect members. This kind of trivial matter was ignored by Wen Renha and Yin Hanjiang, so all personnel affairs were generally managed by the relatively smooth Altar Master Yuan. If he wanted to find Senjingchi, he needed the help of Altar Master Yuan. It was only after he left that Wen Renha slowly turned around. 30 years have passed. How much he hoped that Yin Hanjiang would reach the Mahayana realm, to be able to reach the level of forgetting things so he would not become crazy after his death, so that he could enter the netherworld with peace of mind. In The God of Destruction, Volume 1, He Wenchao together with Blood Demonic Ancestor along with Senjingchi, took advantage of the news of the Bailey Qingmiao's death to lead Wen Renha to Underworld Blood Sea. After the battle they knocked him into the Underworld Blood Sea. Some things seemed to be fated, so Wen Renha was destined to enter the Underworld Blood Sea where his bones would be buried. During the massive demonic war he got rid of the fate of being saved by Bailey Qingmiao. Bailey Qingmiao, with the help of Zhong Liqian, finally also let go of He Wenchao. Wen Renha thought that after doing so much his fate finally deviated a little bit. But who knew that after 30 years of cultivation he would make no progress? The Underworld Blood Sea seemed to be the place that he had to go. Then Yin Hanjiang going crazy, was it also a predetermined fate? No, it was not. When Renha looked at his only remaining hand and clenched his fist. After making preparations for the worst, when Renha began to prepare for going to the Underworld Blood Sea. First he needed to solve the aftermath. When he got the God of Destruction more than 30 years ago, when Renha didn't pay attention to Senjingchi, the traitor of the demonic sect mentioned in the book. For one thing, he really didn't remember this name, and there were so many people in the Shenyuan sect. For Altar Masters and his 2 protectors were all put in charge of it. Earlier when Renha met Shu Yanyan's subordinate named Helian, so how could he remember Senjingchi? He ordered Yin Hanjiang to search, hoping that he would be as far away from Wen Renha as possible but still relatively close to him, keeping a distance that could avoid the blood cultivation instincts but not make Yin Hanjiang feel alienated. Wen Renha didn't care whether his subordinates had a rebellious heart or not. If you didn't want to be a disciple of the Shenyuan sect of this Devil Venerable, you were considered not a good disciple. But Senjingchi in the original book has 3 sins. First, colluding with He Wenchao to kill Shu Yanyan. He Wenchao, who had a grudge against Shu Yanyan, and after befriending the plain-looking Senjingchi he set a trap to kill Shu Yanyan. Second, He helped Yuan Chao get rid of people who did not support him as the main person in the righteous path and put it all on Wen Renhe. Third, he joined hands with Yuan Chao to kill Wen Renhe. After the death of Wen Renhe, Qin Jingqi returned to the Xianyuan sect while Yuan Chao and Beili Qingmiao ascended. He didn't know if the second volume would still have the plot about Xianyuan sect and how many of 4 altar masters and 2 protectors were left. Even if he wanted to enter the underworld Blood Sea in future, it would be better to enter by himself than to be forced by a traitor. Altar Master Yuan was the most suitable person to complete this task, and the only person who would never ask questions was Yin Hanjiang. Yin Hanjiang found Altar Master Yuan and took the list of disciples. The list was very detailed, including the names of the people who had fallen down when the old patriarch was there. There were also mentions of when and where they entered Xianyuan sect and by whom they were introduced, and what changes had occurred in the middle. Altar Master Yuan remembered it all clearly. This old man joined Xianyuan sect 300 years ago and became Altar Master 200 years ago. After that, there are all kinds of records. The records from 200 to 300 years ago are not very complete. There are also no records from 300 years ago. The Altar Master Tuan called himself an old man, but actually he was not that old. He was just a little fat, so he looked like an ordinary middle-aged man. Yin Hanjiang looked at the record carefully and found that there was no one with the name Qin Jingqi on it. He returned records of the last 200 years to Altar Master Yuan, leaving only a list of incomplete records from 200 to 300 years ago. He joined the Xianyuan sect 300 years ago and was still alive. He planned to investigate these people one by one. What's the use of asking for a record? Can't this old man be of any help? Altar Master Yuna said with a grin to Yin Hanjiang. No need. Yin Hanjiang put away the record but did not say the name, Qin Jingqi, aloud. If he was really a traitor and had changed his name, it would only alarm him if the news got out. Facing the list, he first ruled out those who were under nascent soul realm. In Xianyuan sect their cultivation was too low to even have the chance to become a traitor. Those who had been alive in the past 200 years were only protectors and altar masters as well as their confidants. 300 years ago, Qiu Zongxue was a ghost cultivator of the underworld fire altar. But she did not have the brain, so she couldn't be a traitor, excluded. Xu Yanyan came 150 years ago. She relied on the old sect master to become the right protector. When she came to the Xianyuan sect, she could also be excluded. However, there was a person named Helian under Xu Yanyan, who had been a disciple of the Xianyuan sect since 300 years ago and had no detailed records about him. It was strange that such a person had been content to be Xu Yanyan's male favorite all this time. In the end, the candidates selected were Helian and the 3 altar masters, Miao, Ruan, and Yuan, who were not easy to investigate. Yin Hanjiang returned and reported the results of the investigation to Wen Renhe sitting in the chair, who was holding abusive love affair in his hand, and nodded slightly in praise. Qin Jingqi did not appear until 100 years after the development of the plot, so it was possible that he would join in the future. However, at present, the 4 people investigated by Yin Hanjiang could not be ignored and needed to be observed in secret. In addition to taking care of the traitor, he was also concerned about Beili Qingmiao's side. Beili Qingmiao, Elder Qingxue, and Zhong Liqian have been wandering for 30 years. Judging from the details in the book, Qiu Zongxue repeatedly got exposed, and it was all thanks to Zhong Liqian cover-up and Beili Qingmiao's simple-minded nature that it was easy to deceive that her identity was not discovered. There has been no plot conflict in the past 30 years, so the author only wrote a few chapters about their daily lives. But it still made Wen Renhe feel cold sweat for Qiu Zongxue, not to mention Zhong Liqian, who was in the center. It was written that 20.2 years ago his hair turned white overnight, and now his white hair he looked like an immortal. Why would Zhong Liqian hair turn white 20.2 years ago? The reason was that Beili Qingmiao took in a young, youthful, sunny, and kind 18-year-old disciple at that time. Speaking of this disciple, Beili Qingmiao and him had quite a backstory. 18 years ago she went down the mountain for the first time to gain experience. After passing by a haunted village she helped this village to exorcise the ghost. For this reason she arrived at Wanli ice fields a few days late, and made Wen Renhe and Yin Hanjiang wait for her. 18 years later, by coincidence, Bailey Qingmiao came to this village again and found that a young man who had been practicing martial arts since childhood had entered the Qi refinement realm without a teacher and was just one step short of foundation building. At that time, Bailey Qingmiao had already achieved the soul transformation realm. When she saw such a good qualification, she was inspired to take on a disciple. Taking advantage of the fact that Zhong Liqian was helping Qiu Congxue get rid of the righteous cultivators who were chasing her and had no time to take care of her, she helped this teenager advance to foundation building. When Zhong Liqian came back after taking care of righteous cultivators, the teenager had already bowed 3 times to Bailey Qingmiao as his teacher, and Bailey Qingmiao led him to introduce him to Zhong Liqian and Qiu Congxue. Divine consciousness perceives the young man as sunshine in front of Bailey Qingmiao, but when his back was turned to Bailey Qingmiao his expression became gloomy and his eyes vicious. Qiu Congxue vigorously praised the teenager as a good boy, so grandmother and grandson quickly hit it off. But Zhong Liqian covered his head with a headache. He then heard Bailey Qingmiao say happily, "Elder brother Zhong, Xiu Huai was born on the day I exorcised ghosts. We are especially destined, right?" Zhong Liqian was filled with worry and wanted to stop her from accepting disciples, but could not beat Qiu Congxue, so he could only sit silently all night, and when the sun went up his scattered hair became white. Bailey Qingmiao. "Brother Zhong, is it because I took in a disciple last night and you are afraid that I will not be able to teach him well that you sat down all night which made your hair white?" Bailey Qingmiao said sadly. Zhong Liqian shook his head slowly. Bailey Qingmiao said one thing wrong. In fact she was very happy and looking forward to it after accepting her disciples. The reason why he was sad all night was because that night Zhong Liqian looked up at the stars in the sky and was sure that he would never be able to teach Bailey Qingmiao well. Bailey Qingmiao, affected by his emotions, was sad all night. Cultivators will be able to reshape their physical appearance after the nascent soul realm. No matter how worried I am, I will not have white hair overnight. Zhong Liqian tied up his loose hair and tidied himself up in a neat and decent manner. The implication was that he turned his hair white himself, and did not intend to change it. Bailey Qingmiao was puzzled. Readers of a revised version of Abusive Love Affair also didn't understand. This trip of 3 people is absolutely incredible. These 3 people share a total of 3 eyes, which happens to be 1 for each person. This is fair, but what's the matter with 3 people sharing 1 brain? Is Zhong Liqian a little too tired to care? I was wrong. I only knew that Qingxue was full of energy. I thought she was a good match for the silly sweet flower heroine, but I didn't know that she would go this far. If it wasn't for Zhong Liqian, these 2 people would have been killed when they wander the word. Either Elder Qingxue would kill everyone she met on the way, or the 2 of them would be killed. Fortunately, there is Zhong Liqian. No, why is Qingxue's character getting more and more wrong? When Nanguo family invited their friends to attend a banquet for their newborn child on the night of the banquet, she overturned the spirit tablet in the backyard of the family, revealing the truth that the Nanguo family deprived spiritual root of their concubine sons and branch children to raise a first son with a single spiritual root, releasing the grievances of countless children who died tragically. Upstairs, isn't this a good thing? What a kind-hearted person Qingxue is. The problem is that she not only did not join her fellow members of the righteous path to accuse the Nanguo family, but she captured the head of the family with an excited expression and asked how they cultivated such excellent resentment souls. She also asked if these resentment souls could be given to her. If not for Zhong Liqian's explanation that she was being sarcastic, the righteous cultivators that day would have suppressed her along with the resentful souls of the Nanguo family. The first time she heard about the evil art of stealing spiritual roots, she stared so brightly at Bailey Qingmiao. I was creeped out by it. I was afraid that once Bailey Qingmiao woke up from her sleep, her spiritual roots would be gone. I don't believe it. Anyway, I think Madame Qingxue favors Bailey Qingmiao the most. She must be trying to save the poor children. The person who said this upstairs is as silly and sweet as Bailey Qingmiao, right? The problem of Madame Qingxue, even Zhong Liqian, a blind man can see, the eyes of Bailey Qingmiao that can't notice anything. Shouldn't they be donated to Zhong Liqian? Give them to Zhong Liqian. I don't care about the struggle between Qing Shui and Zhong Liqian to steal the silly sweet flower heroine's spiritual root. I only care about one thing. Author, check out your own work title Abusive Love Affair. You are the only one I will never change. If you pat your conscience, are the things in the text worthy of this title? This novel is irrelevant to the subject, I'm glad to see it. I'm glad to see it. Plus 10,086, Bailey Qingmiao did not understand why Zhong Liqian became white-haired, but when Renhe, who was reading the book, understood that he was practicing a spell to restrain ghost cultivation, Zibuyu. This was a spell that could only be learned by those of the four great families who study Confucianism, and those who acquire it will experience the vicissitudes of life overnight, as evidenced by their beautiful hair. After learning Zibuyu, ghost cultivators would not dare to approach them and would be suppressed by the aura of the great virtues. Sure enough, since Zhong Liqian's hair turned white, Qiu Congxue and male lead number 5 ghost cultivator Xiu Huai became much more honest. At least Qiu Congxue, a former ghost in the Shenyuan sect, learned to think twice before acting. She knew that she should discuss it with Zhang Liqian first, so there would be no more tragedies in which 3 people were hunted and killed by dozens of cultivators. After Zhong Liqian cultivated Zibuyu, he took advantage of his travels to sow ideas among the people to teach rural children how to read and discussed literacy texts with them. The 3 generations of Qiu Congxue, Bailey Qingmiao and Xiu Huai also obediently listened to Zhong Liqian command and set up schools together. 20 years later, Zhong Liqian realized his own Tao. These who learn and preach the Tao accept the karma to dispel doubts, and completely broke away from the shackles of Zhong family's fame and advanced to Mahayana realm by virtue of his own strength. After the Mahayana realm he could already make his hair black, but Zhong Liqian himself felt that white hair was more conducive to education, so he didn't change it and called himself Crane Hair Scholar, leaving his name in the cultivation world. 30 years later, everyone has progressed and Bailey Qingmiao also became more and more quiet in the years of her school career, but the author seems to have finally remembered that this novel title was Abusive Love Affair. So Bailey Qingmiao received a letter from her master. Immortal Qing Rong wrote that the sect leader who had been in a coma for many years could recover only by using a lock core herb as the main medicine. The Shangqing sect got the news that the Purple Spirit Pavilion, which has been secluded for many years, had this medicine, and He Wenchao has already gone to the Purple Spirit Pavilion to ask for this medicine but met with a lot of difficulties from the Purple Spirit Pavilion, so they were afraid it would be difficult to get the medicine. If it was convenient for Bailey Qingmiao, she hoped that she could go to the Purple Spirit Pavilion to help her elder martial brother seek medicine. After reading the words, He Wenchao, Bailey Qingmiao's heart ached again after a long silence. Zhong Liqian felt Bailey Qingmiao's heartache and said indifferently, "Let's go together. The teacher's kindness has to be repaid, the sins of love have to be overcome. Avoidance is not the way. After traveling for so many years it's time to see if your state of mind has grown." The group of 4, currently led by Zhong Liqian, seeing him agree, set off for the Purple Spirit Pavilion. The Purple Spirit Pavilion on the Taiyin Mountain in the far north, it was a secluded and neutral sect. They also did not send anyone to fight in the massive demonic war, which was very mysterious. The modified version of the plot ended here, when Renhe did not forget that Purple Spirit Pavilion's hidden scattered immortal was beaten by him, but also remembered the method of taking over the body. In fact, the scattered immortal and the blood cultivator have the same characteristics, they both have lost their physical bodies and their souls were integrated. He wondered if the method of possessing the body of the scattered immortal of the Purple Spirit Pavilion could temporarily relieve the blood cultivator's thirst for blood souls. When Renhe closed the book and decided to also depart for the Purple Spirit Pavilion, the author has something to say. Zhong Liqian. In these 30 years, I seem to have grown up a lot, and witnessed the vicissitudes of the world. Qingxue, Xiu Huai, whisper. This village seems to have ghosts, why don't we go to Zhong Liqian? Qingxue, Xiu Huai, head held high, revealing a red scarf, let's go to fulfill her wish so she can cross over and enter the reincarnation circle. Beili Qingmiao, happy. Brother Zhong Liqian, look how well behaved my disciple is. Zhong Liqian. My heart is tired. Edited by Ninja, proofread by Neo. Chapter 39. Emotion Extinguishing Rod. You are listening at novelfull.audio. It was impossible for Wen Renhe to leave the Xianyuan sect without an explanation. According to everyone's duties, when the Venerable Master was not in the sect, Yin Hanjiang, the new vice-patriarch who had only been in office for 30 years, should take over the sect affairs. Wen Renhe was planning to leave Yin Hanjiang in Xianyuan sect and go to the Purple Spirit Pavilion in Taiyin Mountain alone. The complicated affairs of the Xianyuan sect were nothing important, and it didn't matter if his subordinates rebelled after he left, anyway, they would surrender when he would return. Yin Hanjiang was so close to Wen Renhe and was at the peak of Void Realm, but he did not have the slightest sense of defense against Wen Renhe. If Wen Renhe said, I need a blood soul to absorb, Yin Hanjiang would have willingly offered his own blood soul. It was too dangerous to depart with him, and it would be easier to restrain oneself if he was alone. So before he left, Wen Renhe called Yin Hanjiang and directly said he was going to Taiyin Mountain. Yin Hanjiang was completely unaware that Wen Renhe was planning to get rid of him, so he silently followed behind his lord, preparing to set off with Wen Renhe. Seeing him like this, Wen Renhe stopped, considered his words, and slowly said, Patriarch Yin, the sect affairs and investigation of the traitor after this venerable leave. At this point, Yin Hanjiang's expression changed from calm to blank. He quietly watched Wen Renhe quietly, seemingly thinking nothing, only waiting for the order from the Venerable Lord. As long as Wen Renhe ordered, Yin Hanjiang would execute it perfectly, even if he did not want to. Wen Renhe did not continue speaking, but Yin Hanjiang still maintained the listening posture, waiting for his lord to declare the final result. Traitor can be handed over to Protector Shu, she is already very skilled and even several altar masters have been tricked by her. They must be on guard against each other and will not easily strike to break the balance. The traitor's matter is not urgent, after all, there are not many clues now, maybe after you and I leave the Xianyuan sect Xinjingqi will reveal himself. Wen Renhe said to expressionless Yin Hanjiang. With these words Yin Hanjiang's expression became more hopeful as he deeply bowed his head and said, This subordinate will obey the orders. Wen Renhe frowned upon hearing this. He had never been separated from Yin Hanjiang in the past. The Devil Venerable always went his own way and went wherever he wanted, there was no need to report to Yin Hanjiang also never asked. However, after getting abusive love affair because of fear that Yin Hanjiang would go crazy, he rarely separated from him. At this moment, he wanted to walk away but he restrained. This was not right. Originally, Wen Renhe hoped that Yin Hanjiang's emotions could be calmed down so that he would not do something unpleasant after Wen Renhe's death, so he paid attention to him. But now, on the contrary, he had become even more uneasy. In the past, when Wen Renhe wanted to go anywhere, he never checked whether Yin Hanjiang appeared lonely, but now for some reason his heart softened. Yin Hanjiang, Wen Renhe said, calling him by his name. This venerable is not your god, but just one of the countless cultivators who, like you, are on the path to ascension. This subordinate knows. Yin Hanjiang said, still with his head bowed. Longing is one thing, but your own path must also be followed. Do you understand? Wen Renhe moved closer to him and reached out to hold the back of Yin Jiang's neck, pressed his thumb behind his ear. The strength of his palm forced Yin Hanjiang to look up. The two of them were too close to each other that a red tinge appeared on their faces. Wen Renhe only felt a sweetness emerge in his chest as Yin Hanjiang's genuine qi, which belonged exclusively to sword cultivators, came to his face. There was a fit of dizziness in the brain of Wen Renhe, who had not been able to absorb the real qi of heaven and earth for the past 30 years. The palm on the back of Yin Hanjiang's neck became heavier, as the secret of blood-soul cultivation was replaying in his mind. As soon as he released the power of his palm, Yin Hanjiang would turn into blood under his palm, and his genuine qi and soul would belong to Wenrenha. When Wenrenha blushed due to blood, Yin Hanjiang also blushed for some reason. After some resistance he fled from Wenrenha palm and said, "Subordinate understands, I will advance to Mahayana realm as soon as possible so I can share your worries." Yin Hanjiang's retreat caused Wenrenha to regain traces of his sanity. He suppressed the blood energy that kept churning in his body, turning around and said, "Send a message to Protector Shu, order her to temporarily take over the position of Patriarch." After sending the transmission talisman, Wenrenha did not look back as he directly transformed into transient light and left. Yin Hanjiang hurriedly took out Alkaid's sword to keep up with him. He bit his lip. What did his lord mean by his? Had he discovered his feelings? In the conversation just now, did his expression reveal any kind of weakness? Yin Hanjiang repeatedly told himself in his heart that he must be cautious when getting along with his lord in the future. As a vice-patriarch, it was only natural for him to stay in the Shenyuan sect and preside over the general situation, so he shouldn't lose his heart just because he could not follow his lord. Even if he was really sad inside, he mustn't show it on the surface. The two people with their own thoughts came to Taiyin Mountain. When Wenrenha landed outside the Purple Spirit Pavilion formation, avoiding the patrolling disciples, and took out the book to observe how far the plot had developed, which he would use to decide whether he would break into the Purple Spirit Pavilion or order it to open its doors to welcome him. 3 days ago, Bailey Qingmiao group arrived in Taiyin Mountain. Bailey Qingmiao turned around in front of the Purple Spirit Pavilion's magic weapon, the Misty Morning Bell, wondering if she should ring it. According to Elder Qin Rong, the Purple Spirit Pavilion told He Wen Chao and other disciples that the Purple Spirit Pavilion only had one lock core herb, so it would be difficult to give it to the Shangqing sect, unless they can find a way to make another lock core herb seedling grow up. However, for the seedlings to grow, they must be immersed in the mountain fire in Taiyin Mountain. He Wen Chao and others have been staying in the Purple Spirit Pavilion during this period of time, trying to find a way around it, gathering around the hole where the mountain fire had erupted once every 3,000 years, but half a month has passed without the slightest progress. The purpose of Elder Qin Rong's letter was not to ask Bailey Qingmiao to complete this difficult task, but to persuade Immortal Qingxue and Crane Hair Scholar to do it. Immortal Qingxue was a guest elder of the Shangqing sect, so she should help, but with Immortal Qingxue temperament, it was said that the Nanguo family was still hunting her. The Shangqing sect knew that Qingxue was very good to Bailey Qingmiao, so they counted on Bailey Qingmiao to persuade her. Over the years, the reputation of the Crane Hair Scholar has spread throughout the cultivation world. The Zhong family repented, and the Shangqing sect also knew that this Crane Hair Scholar and Bailey Qingmiao shared the same heart because of compulsion Gu, so Bailey Qingmiao could persuade him. With the help of Zhong Liqian, they believed they would be able to meet the Purple Spirit Pavilion's conditions. As for Xiu Huai, he was just a disciple of the Golden Core realm, so no one expected him to play a role. Bailey Qingmiao took him just to let her disciple travel 1,000,000 miles and gain experience. Xiu Huai, who had a gloomy expression, was the most arrogant one in the 4-person group. Xiu Huai originally planned to plot against Bailey Qingmiao in order to avenge the ghost exorcism she performed. If it wasn't for the birth of stillborn child that allowed him to save his soul, his cultivation would have been really scattered and he really would have had a deep blood feud with Bailey Qingmiao. When he learned that Bailey Qingmiao came to town again and intended to take him as a disciple, Xiu Huai immediately agreed and was determined to be a good and obedient disciple. He wanted to trick Bailey Qingmiao, a member of the righteous path, and let this silly woman think from the bottom of her heart that he was her sweetest and best apprentice, so that later, when he assassinated Bailey Qingmiao, her shocked and sad twisted expression would be even more beautiful. After paying homage to his new master with this idea, Xiu Huai followed the line of sight that gave him slightly creepy feelings. He looked in the direction of that gaze and saw that his nominal master was licking his lips at him, making him shudder in fear. When Bailey Qingmiao was meditating that night, Xiao Huai was carried to hut by Qiu Zongxue. Xiao Huai simply couldn't resist the power of scattered immortal. Qiu Zongxue also laid formation, making Xiao Huai unable to escape, so even his cry for help could not be heard. Help! The 18-year-old boy knocked desperately on the door of the room, but the tall woman behind him grabbed him mercilessly. Don't move, let me have a good look at you. Qiu Zongxue's eyes glowed as she pressed Xiao Huai to the ground. The palm of her hand pointing to his heart as her eyes brightened, and she said, "There is really a heartbeat. You are a living ghost cultivator. You know that I am a ghost cultivator." Xiao Huai exclaimed. He thought he had disguised himself well and had concealed himself from Bailey Qingmiao and others, but he didn't expect that the immortal Qingxue would see through his identity at a glance. How did you manage to have a physical body and still be able to cultivate the hungry ghost path? Qiu Zongxue frowned as she stared at Xiao Huai heart. Will you still be alive when I dig it out? I don't know. Xiao Huai crumbled under immortal Qingxue hungry wolf-like sight. When my soul was about to disintegrate, I felt the birth of a stillbirth. The child was born in difficult labor and the soul that wanted to be reincarnated in this body has already left, but the baby still had traces of life, so I possessed it. Becoming a living person but not really a living person, a ghost cultivator but not a ghost cultivator. The reason why Xiao Huai was able to enter the Qi refinement realm without being taught by anyone was because he often catches the hostile ghosts around the town to eat. Originally, only ghost cultivators could absorb the malicious ghosts, but Xiao Huai has a special physique. He could absorb the souls of malicious ghosts with a living person body and transform them into his own genuine qi. After listening to his explanation, Qingxue thought deeply for a long time and said, "It seems that the problem lies in this body of yours. If I swallow your soul, and then take your body, I probably will be able to restore my ghost cultivator body." This person who looks like an honorable lady thought about it all night and only came up with such a bad idea. Was her head just for decoration? Xiao Huai desperately fled, weak, pitiful and helpless. Just as he was being held down by immortal Qingxue who wanted to absorb his soul, Bailey Qingmiao's voice came from outside the hut. "Master Qingxue, apprentice, where are you? It's already dawn, we should leave. I think they should be in this thatched hut." The blindfolded man's gentle voice sounded. "Immortal Qingxue is helping Miss Bailey train her new disciple. Is that so? I'll go and take a look." Bailey Qingmiao smiled and pushed open the door. When she opened the door, Qiu Zongxue let go of Xiao Huai and released the formation in the room, allowing Bailey Qingmiao to see the two of them without any problems. "Master." For the first time, Xiao Huai felt that Bailey Qingmiao was really a righteous cultivator with a beautiful heart. He threw himself around her waist and secretly swore that he would be kind to Bailey Qingmiao in the future and would never be separated from his master and would be alone with this immortal Qingxue. Elder Qingxue must think that Xiao Huai is naughty, and secretly taught him to listen to the master, right? Zhong Liqian used a nasal sound to say which made both Qingxue and Xiao Huai shake their bodies. Qiu Zongxue cultivation was higher than Zhong Liqian's, but every time she saw his blindfolded cloth, she felt fear in her heart. Unlike when Renha's straightforward, violent and suppressive way of doing things, Zhong Liqian was gentle, not pressuring anyone, it was comfortable to get along with. But his insight into everything was always intimidating. After this incident, Xiao Huai put aside the hatred of being nearly beaten to death and sincerely recognized Bailey Qingmiao as his master, sincerely taking care of her. Now seeing Bailey Qingmiao pacing back and forth in front of Misty Morning Bell, he narrowed his eyes and said, "Master, why are you so timid?" Bailey Qingmiao, who was in the center of the matter, blushed and said, "It's not really true that I will be infatuated with my elder martial brother again. Elder martial brother and elder martial sister Lu are affectionate couples in Shangqing sect, so I don't want to get involved with them. I am just worried that after not seeing each other for 30 years, my restlessness will affect big brother Zhong." Xiao Huai was originally afraid of the immortal Qingxue, but after Zhong Liqian practiced Zibuyu so he became friends with Qingxue and the relationship between the two eased. Then Xiu Huai also learned that Qingxue was in reality a ghost cultivator, and was Xianyuan sect underworld fire altar master. The Xianyuan sect underworld fire altar. This was a big organization that he couldn't even think of as a minor cultivator. From then on, Xiu Huai began to learn from the immortal Qingxue and his acting style gradually got dyed in Qiu Congxue colors. Master, don't worry. When the time comes and you are confused, we will knock you out and drag you away, you will never affect Senior Zhong. Xiu Huai dryly said, and helped Bailey Qingmiao ring the misty morning bell. Bailey Qingmiao. Were they related to each other? Her apprentice was becoming more and more like Master Qingxue. When the misty morning bell rang in the fog, Bailey Qingmiao presented a greeting card made by the Shangqing sect secret heart method to show her identity. A purple spirit pavilion disciple led 4 people inside to see He Wenchao, but none of the purple spirit pavilion leaders were present. He Wenchao came with Lu Xinye and several other disciples of the sect who were close to him. When he saw his younger material sister whom he had not seen for 30 years, he froze as he looked at her from a distance, unable to look away. Even when Lu Xinye pinched his arm he didn't feel it. Bailey Qingmiao was still the same. Over the years she has experienced 2 consecutive heavenly tribulations at the soul transformation and soul combination realms. Each time after the heavenly tribulations she wanted to put aside her stubbornness to look for her elder material brother, even if she could only look at him from afar it would still be good. If it wasn't for Zhong Liqian who always felt Bailey Qingmiao's heart and brainwashed her in time, as well as powerful immortal Qingxue who was guarding her, Bailey Qingmiao would have secretly run back. This time when she saw He Wenchao again, Zhong Liqian only felt his beating wildly. Even though his eyes could not see, he could feel how gentle and handsome that silhouette was in the distance. The feelings that have been pent up for 30 years were so strong that even Zhong Liqian could not control Bailey Qingmiao's state of mind for a while. Fortunately, as soon as Bailey Qingmiao moved half a step forward, she felt a chill on her back and a cold wind hit her. She turned her head to avoid it, but when she turned around she saw Xiu Huai wielding his own magic weapon, the emotion-extinguishing rod, and swinging it over. The full length of the rod was 40 meters and it was as thick as Bailey Qingmiao waist. Zhong Liqian and Qiu Congxue helped to refine it so it could become larger or smaller, longer or shorter. Xiu Huai directly turned the emotion-extinguishing rod into the largest one. Bailey Qingmiao avoided it in time, but He Wenchao, who was still watching Bailey Qingmiao lost in thought, was hit by the rod in the head. A waist-thick gold magic treasure smashed the head. Even if He Wenchao was already master in the void realm, he would not be able to take it well. The first blow did not hit Bailey Qingmiao, so the emotion-extinguishing rod fleshed and turned into 2 slender sticks before trying to hit Bailey Qingmiao again. Bailey Qingmiao, who had regained her composure with the help of Zhong Liqian, quickly reached out to catch her discipline weapon and said, "Disciple, don't fight, I'm fine." Zhong Liqian then smiled lightly and said, "Xiu Huai magic weapon, thanks to the immortal Qingxue, absorbed the grievances of thousands of ghosts before becoming the emotion-extinguishing rod. These ghosts are all female ghosts abandoned or killed by men, so although this emotion-extinguishing rod is only a quasi-immortal weapon, it has a special power. When a woman is hit by this weapon, her love will turn into hate. The more she loves that person, the more she would want to kill that person. If a man is hit, the yin qi would enter his body and he would lose his ability in some aspect. Some special effects Zhong Liqian couldn't explain, so Qiu Congxue proudly helped him to continue. This was after all the proud work of hers and her disciple grandson's masterpiece. He Wenchao's head was obviously hit, but some other part of his body was also extremely painful. He could not check the wound in front of several disciples, so he could only bear the pain and grit his teeth as he asked, "Martial sister, who is that boy behind you? Why did he hit you?" The author has something to say. Xiu Huai. I was actually forced to use such a weapon. Can you believe it? Edited by Ninja, proofread by Neo. Chapter 40.1. Who are you, handsome? You are listening at novelfull.audio. As He Wenchao spoke, he used his genuine qi to force yin qi from his body. After all, he was a cultivator at Void Realm. Xiao Huai cultivation was too low, so even if it had some effect after he forced out yin qi, he would be fine. However, Xiao Huai made a fool out of He Wenchao in front of his fellow disciples and his wife, so his expression was not good. If it hadn't been for Bailey Qingmiao's protection, he would have already taken action to teach this golden core cultivator a lesson. He is my disciple, Xiao Huai. After Bailey Qingmiao regained her sanity, her emotions were suppressed by Zhong Liqian so she could talk normally to her senior material brother. She put her hand on Xiao Huai's shoulder as she introduced him. Then why don't you come over and pay your respects to the elders of the sect? Lu Xinye walked to the side of He Wenchao, her expression not very good. Xiao Huai face twisted, he only recognized Bailey Qingmiao as his master reluctantly. He was a ghost cultivator, so he had no sense of belonging to the Shangqing sect. On the other hand, after making peace with Qiu Zongxue, Protector Qiu promised to introduce him to the Xianyuan sect underworld fire altar. If he behaves well, she would also help him kill the current altar master and help him become the new altar master of underworld fire altar. In this state of mind, Xiao Huai was not willing to kowtow to these people in front of him whom he had never met. Bailey Qingmiao was brought up with traditional education of the righteous sect, so just as she was about to tell Xiao Huai to bow, she heard Immortal Qingxue say, "Ha! I'm also an elder, right? Why don't you guys pay respect when you see your elders?" Xiao Huai duly bowed to Qingxue. "Greetings to Master Qingxue." The Shangqing sect crowd. "And you, Immortal Qingxue," took out a soul-binding jade with a wisp of Lu Xinye's soul locked inside. "When are you going to pay me back? Did you change your mind? The nascent soul of soul transformation realm is not worth 7. Colored blue lotus here, plus your Taoist partner is enough." Lu Xinye. He Wenchao. He Wenchao hurriedly took Lu Xinye's hand and led the disciples to bow to Qingxue. "Greetings to Senior Aunt Qingxue." As they paid their respects, Xiao Huai followed Zhong Liqian's instructions and stood beside Qingxue, arching his hands and saluting. The two sides saluted together, so no one was losing. "Material Aunt, in the past 30 years, in order to help Master find medicinal herbs, we have no time to take care of your heavenly herbs. The good thing is that Lok Core herb is the last spiritual plant needed. When Master wake up, this disciple will be relieved of the affairs of the sect and can accompany his wife to help you find the heavenly herbs. I hope you will forgive me." Although He Wenchao successively ran into a brick wall in front of the three masters and disciples, he suppressed his emotions and thoughtfully pulled his wife to make a promise to Qingxue. Senior brother he was really a good husband. Bailey Qingmiao secretly thought in her heart and couldn't help feeling smitten. Zhong Liqian tapped his palm with a bamboo slips as Xiao Huai immediately drew out emotion extinguishing rod. Bailey Qingmiao hurriedly said, don't fight, I've calmed down." He Wenchao, seeing the huge magic weapon, also quickly dragged Lu Xinye to dodge. Xiao Huai, not being able to hit anyone, curled his mouth and put away his emotion extinguishing rod. The situation between the two sides became tense, so Zhong Liqian spoke. "Why don't we go and see how to start a mountain fire? Sect leader is still the most important." This sentence dissolved the immediate stiffness as all of them went to an underground crater together. According to He Wenchao and the others, after they arrived at the Purple Spirit Pavilion, the pavilion master took one look at them through the curtain and sent them toward an underground crater, telling them to figure out how to do it themselves so that the seedlings they cultivated could be taken away directly. These days, everyone tried various methods on the top of the mountain, but they couldn't control the mountain fire within an appropriate range. Bailey Qingmiao group of 4 people didn't even enter the main hall as they were led directly to an underground crater. No one dared to say that the Purple Spirit Pavilion was rude. After all, the Purple Spirit Pavilion has not been in contact with the righteous path for so many years and they wanted something from the It was already good enough that they let them come to the underground crater. It was said that Taiyin Mountain has been dormant for 3,000 years and was very safe. Beili Qingmiao boldly steps forward. Zhong Liqian, Qingxue and Xiu Huai also did not find anything strange about it. But unexpectedly, as soon as Beili Qingmiao poked her head over, a flame rose straight to the face of Beili Qingmiao. She cried out in alarm and narrowly avoided the mountain fire, but her black eye patch was burned and fell into the underground crater. Younger martial sister, are you okay? He Wenchao pushed Lu Xinye away and quickly rushed up to check if Beili Qingmiao's face had been burned. As soon as Beili Qingmiao opened her eyes, her right eye saw her senior material brother's concerned expression. But before her heart moved, her left eye was glued to Zhong Liqian's face. Her one eye was concentrating on Zhong Liqian while the other was full of He Wenchao, making her almost become cross-eyed. She pushed away He Wenchao and closed her eyes before turning her head sideways and saying, "Get an eye patch for me." Xiu Huai handed over a piece of black cloth, and after Beili Qingmiao wrapped it around, she sighed a long sigh of relief. Only then did she see He Wenchao's injured expression. She wanted to explain and took a half step forward, but suddenly she saw Lu Xinye step forward to help push away He Wenchao and give Beili Qingmiao a provocative glare. Beili Qingmiao took half step back, thinking that it was for the best. After so many days, the mountain fire has finally responded. Yao Wendan did not notice the atmosphere between several people and spoke directly to Beili Qingmiao. "Sister, what have you just done to make the mountain fire ignite so accurately that it only erupted in one direction?" "I did not do anything." Beili Qingmiao was also puzzled. She just gently probed it when the mountain fire ignited, but after she retreated, the mountain fire disappeared again. It was as if it was directly headed toward Beili Qingmiao. Zhong Liqian, standing next to the underground crater, pondered. After getting along with Beili Qingmiao for 30 years, he actually had a faint feeling that it was particularly easy for her to obtain heavenly treasures. In the short period of 30 years, he also advanced from the Soul Combination realm to Mahayana realm. In addition to the cultivation of Zibuyu and comprehending the teacher's path, there were also many encounters with heavenly treasures that supplemented his genuine qi. Edited by Ninja, proofread by Neo. Chapter 40.2. Who are you, handsome? You are listening at novelfull.audio. He suddenly thought of Wen Renhe and Beili Qingmiao. During his second meeting with Wen Renhe, he said that some heavenly treasures were predestined for her, so he needed her for treasure hunting. Could it be that Wen Renhe had already discovered this special feature of Beili Qingmiao? Zhong Liqian frowned and pondered. While the crowd was discussing how to ignite the mountain fire, a fragrance came. This medicinal fragrance. I smelled it when I met Purple Spirit Pavilion Master before. Yao Wendan said, could it be that the strange movement in the underground crater has alerted the Purple Spirit Pavilion Master? As they spoke, several people came from not far away. Several women dressed in purple robes pushed the luxurious rickshaw. Inside sat a person whose face was blocked by the curtain. When they arrived near, the four maids dressed in purple put down the rickshaw and the leading woman said, "I wonder who started the fire just now." The crowd retreated, revealing Beili Qingmiao. Then a low voice came from the curtain. "Sure enough, it's you." Beili Qingmiao tilted her head, cupping her fists, saluting as she said politely, "My name is Beili Qingmiao. From what the pavilion master said, have you ever met with Beili in the past?" "Who knows?" A hand lifted the curtain, a man in a silver robe stepped out, his eyes sweeping over Beili Qingmiao's face and said, "Perhaps we met in a previous life." His long black hair was combed back and bound by a silver hair band, a few strands of long hair scattered on his shoulders. His narrow phoenix eyes flashed with a trace of coldness and his thin lips were bloodless. Only after seeing Beili Qingmiao did he smile without any warmth. The Shangqing sect is the leader of the righteous path, and this time many experts came that our Purple Spirit Pavilion do not dare to neglect. Why don't you stay in the Purple Spirit Pavilion for a while, and we'll figure out how to ripen the seedlings of the Lok Core herb together. It's okay if you can't, isn't there still a mature one? As long as the Shangqing sect can come up with items of equal value in exchange, it is not impossible to give it to you. Everyone. No, that's not what you said a few days ago. Not only were the people present puzzled, but also readers of Abusive Love Affair and The God of Destruction were all dumbfounded. The book review area of the two books became unprecedentedly unified for once asking, "Who are you, handsome guy?" and even Wen Renhe couldn't believe his own eyes. The first wife of He Wenchao in The God of Destruction and the #1 female lead rival in Abusive Love Affair, the female scattered immortal who was beaten up by Wen Renhe on the Wanli ice field, how did she become a man now? Yin Hanjiang saw his lord standing in front of the Purple Spirit Pavilion, Misty Morning Bell flipping through the book. Then he suddenly settled somewhere, his face turning green and white as if he suddenly had encountered something difficult. Venerable. Yin Hanjiang looked at Wen Renhe in puzzlement. He couldn't imagine anything in this world that could be so difficult for Wen Renhe. Nothing. The revised version of both books ended here, when Renhe put the book away and stood in front of the Mist Morning Bell thinking. Patriarch Yin, it seems that you and I have to change our plan. Coming to the Purple Spirit Pavilion, Wen Renhe had two plans in mind: first, violently destroy the Purple Spirit Pavilion's formation and break in to find the scattered immortal to force out of her method of possessing the body. Second, blow up half of Taiyin Mountain and use the art of voice transmission to say his request, so that the Purple Spirit Pavilion will respectfully present the method to him. But who could have known that the plot had already taken an unprecedented turn, when Renhe decided to change his plan and enter the Purple Spirit Pavilion with a new, polite, identity. You and I need to change our appearance and pretend to be the gatekeepers of the Zhong family and submit the invitation in a proper manner to enter Purple Spirit Pavilion. Zhong Liqian should be able to guess it and cover for us. When Renhe quickly came up with a new plan and explained it to Yin Hanjiang. He had a one-sided relationship with this Purple Spirit Pavilion master, so if he didn't cover his tracks well he would be discovered by that person and then it would be difficult to guess why the plot changed so significantly. If the Purple Spirit Pavilion master does not marry He Wenchao like in the original book, then her fate as female lead rival would change. If her fate could be changed, can the fate of important male leads Wen Renhe and Yin Hanjiang also be changed? The Xianyuan sect naturally had numerous magic treasures to change their appearance, so Yin Hanjiang took out two masks. They were different from human skin masks which could be molded to any appearance you want. This magic treasure was of the lowest level, so its aura was extremely low, except for changing the appearance it has no other use. The only advantage was that as long as the face was not touched, they would not be recognized. Patriarch Yin, mold a face for this venerable. Wen Renhe instructed. Yin Hanjiang pasted the mask on Wen Renhe's face and gently molded it with his fingertips as he asked. What do you want to look like? Do as you please. Wen Renhe said, he had great confidence in Zhong Liqian intelligence, so no matter how they looked, Zhong Liqian would recognize them and help them cover up their identity. Yin Hanjiang was not short, only an inch lower than Wen Renhe. Looking at Wen Renhe's face he molded it attentively. After molding out a face he was stunned for a moment before hurriedly intending to remake it, but Wen Renhe said. Is it ready? Let me see. He pointed casually and an ice mirror appeared in front of his eyes. Wen Renhe stared at the face in the mirror silently. The face was almost exactly like his own and only the eyebrows and eyes were slightly different from what they looked now. Giving him a little more heroic feeling, he looked just like General Wen Ren from the border town from more than 100 years ago. In the eyes of Patriarch Yin, was this venerable always only this? In Wen Renhe's eyes, faintly flashed a trace of displeasure that came from nowhere. General Wen Ren is only a brief experience of this venerable's life in the mortal world. This venerable has already come out of his state of mind from that time. If Patriarch Yin's perception remains stuck in that time period, he will never be able to advance to the Mahayana realm. That's not true, it's just. Yin Hanjiang himself did not know how to explain it. Just now Venerable looked at him so intently and his gaze was so gentle that his hands moved involuntarily. Subordinate will change it for the Lord. Yin Hanjiang hurriedly said. No need. When Renha said and a plain face appeared and his black robe became the grey clothes of the Zhong family. Yin Hanjiang put the mask on his own face and was about to form an ordinary face for himself when Renha said. Come to this Venerable. A strong hand pressed Yin Hanjiang's face as his whole body stiffened, he did not move and even his breathing stopped. When Renha made a mediocre face for Yin Hanjiang and withdrew his hand saying. Patriarch Yin, don't keep chasing this Venerable's shadow. This subordinate did not, Yin Hanjiang, was not able to end his sentence. He once told Zhong Liqian that he would not ask for anything and just watch silently. But in fact it was difficult to eliminate the delusions altogether. He longed to become general when Ren's soldier, even if he and his lord were mortal, it would not matter. They would wear the same robe in the battlefield so even if they died together it would still be some kind of happiness. Devil Venerable was too powerful and difficult to chase, so Yin Hanjiang did not dare to even think about it. He could only hold it in his heart so maybe in his next life he would have an opportunity. When Renha saw him like this, he couldn't help but sigh slightly. On the day when Alcade's sword was refined, he clearly felt that Yin Hanjiang was gradually opening his heart and was no longer the foolish and loyal left protector of the past. At that time, everything was going in a good direction, so why did he suddenly retreat back again? And even further than before. Patriarch Yin, do you have something on your mind that you are hiding from this Venerable? When Renha asked. No, Yin Hanjiang couldn't say it, he really was hiding something from his lord that he would never be able to say in this life. Even if he died and his soul was taken out to be refined, he would never say it. He looked up at Renha, his eyes full of determination. I really have something on my mind, but it has nothing to do with Lord. Venerable, please don't need to be concerned, this subordinate will certainly handle it. When Renha turned his palm into a claw, stopping in the moment he was about to strangle Yin Hanjiang's neck. Yin Hanjiang did not avoid or dodge, instead, he obediently exposed his neck to allow his lord to strangle him. After returning to the Shenyuan sect, go to the forbidden place to think about it for 50 years. If you don't untie your heart knot in 50 years, when Renha paused, he did not know how to punish so he just added. We will discuss it after 50 years. After thinking about it for 50 years. Yin Hanjiang bowed his head and smiled bitterly. When Renha noticed that no matter what he said, Yin Hanjiang wasn't moved so a sense of powerlessness rose in his chest so he just rang missed morning bell as he said. Zhong family, Zhongli Qian grandson's disciples Wenzuan and Yinjiang seek to visit Zhong grandson. Hoping that purple spirit pavilion will let us come in. Zhong Liqian who heard the news. Wenzuan, Yinjiang. Wasn't Venerable afraid that with these names will others know their identity? Edited by Ninja, proofread by Neo. Chapter 41. The second book you are listening at Novel Full.audio. Zhong Liqian could only explain awkwardly. It is Zhong Wenzuan and Zhong Yinjiang from the Zhong family. These two were once a branch of the Zhong family 200 years ago, and later became my staff in the form of disciples. I sent a message to these two after I heard about the matter of the mountain fire, hoping they could help us think of a solution. I wonder if you can let them in. He had a courteous attitude and was a Mahayana realm cultivator whose words carried a lot of weight, so the Purple Spirit Pavilion disciple then took Zhong Liqian to that male pavilion master to report this matter. Zhong Liqian asked them. These two names. The pavilion master put his hand on his forehead and looked at Zhong Liqian's hand. Written invitation. Zhong Liqian said that it was rude for the two guests to visit without invitation, so he specially wrote an invitation for the two, hoping that the pavilion master would forgive him. The Purple Spirit Pavilion master repeatedly looked at the words, Wenzuan, and Yinjiang, several times, then Zhong Liqian said with a shallow smile. Pavilion master might not know, but Zhong family cultivates the sage path, each disciple would choose a subject of knowledge as the foundation of his cultivation. The 6 arts of gentlemen, such as rites, music, archery, chariotry, calligraphy, mathematics, and so on, are all within the scope. The Zhongwenzuan cultivates rites and Zhongyinjiang music. These 2 also have some scholars' frivolity, for fear that others will not know what they learned. They specially chose new names like Wenzuan and Yinjiang, but their real names were Zhongliwen and Zhongliyin. The way these 2 paid their respects at the door was really a bit rude. Li Qin will take blame for these 2 first. He cupped his hands together and bent his waist while extending his arms forward, performing an extremely respectful salute. The Purple Spirit Pavilion Master straightened his back and looked at Zhong Liqian's face and said, "In these 30 years, it was said that Zhong family has no vision, mistaking pearls for fish eyes to actually expel Zhong Liqian from the family. I thought this was just a false rumor in the cultivation world, but today, after meeting the crane-hair scholar, I realized what a true gentleman should be like." "Your honor is too kind," Zhong Liqian said with a faint smile. "The Purple Spirit Pavilion has been secluded from the world for many years, but there are a lot of people coming to Purple Spirit Pavilion today. Coupled with the fact that a mountain fire erupted for no reason, I was going to close the mountain and no longer receive outside guests, but for the sake of Master Zhong I will let them stay for a few days," the Purple Spirit Pavilion Master said. "Thank you, Your Highness." When Zhong Liqian saw the Purple Spirit Pavilion Master put down that invitation, a stone weighing in his heart was finally settled down. He went with the Purple Spirit Pavilion disciples to the Misty Morning Bell. Several female Purple Spirit Pavilion disciples blushed, when looking at Zhang Liqian and asking him questions along the way, asking him why his hair was white, about his relationship with Beili Qingmiao. Zhong Liqian answered their question truthfully one by one. Once they heard that he and Beili Qingmiao had been together for 30 years and were still just righteous siblings, several female disciples' eyes lit up a bit. The Purple Spirit Pavilion Mountain Protection Array, excluding Lord's carriage and flying boat, made other people unable to fly. The flying boat was much slower than Zhong Liqian's own speed, and he also rode with several beautiful female cultivators. But Zhong Liqian felt that he was sitting on the needles all the way to Misty Morning Bell. The disciples opened the formation and Zhong Liqian divine sense felt one Renhe and another person, so he took a lead in saying, "Two Zhong family brothers, long time no see." He also grabbed the hands of the 2 men in front of the Purple Spirit Pavilion disciples, frantically hinting. But after squeezing, Zhong Liqian froze. He turned to Wen Renhe, his eyes still blindfolded, but his doubts written all over his face. Wen Renhe coldly said, "Master Zhong, thank you for welcoming us. Why don't we go in and talk about it?" Nav Om. Wen Renhe didn't expect that Zhong Liqian would take the initiative to shake hands and failed to avoid it in time. Zhong Liqian held the fake arm and instantly sensed that Wen Renhe's condition was not right. Zhong Liqian also knew that he could not talk about this matter here, so he quickly introduced Wen Renhe to several female disciples. The Purple Spirit Pavilion disciples saw that the 2 of them looked very plain and ordinary after changing their appearance and were not as good as Zhong Liqian, so their attitude was rather superficial as they still leaned against Zhong Liqian along the way. After returning to the room, Zhong Liqian immediately transmitted, "Venerable Wen Renhe, your hand, let's talk about this matter afterwards. Tell me about the Purple Spirit Pavilion Master." Wen Renhe also quickly transmitted. Zhong Liqian had to stop asking about his fake arm. Seeing that Yin Hanjiang had already set up a sound-proof formation, he said with confidence, "I have 3 doubts about Purple Spirit Pavilion Master. First, Purple Spirit Pavilion Master only has female disciples, and he is the only one who is a man. Second, the mountain fire was so sudden but Purple Spirit Pavilion Master appeared so quickly. He arrived as soon as the mountain fire started. I saw the speed of his rickshaw. He definitely set out before the mountain fire started. If Li Qian calculated the time correctly, the time from when Beili Qingmiao went through the door and to the underground crater should just be about right. Third, our accommodation arrangements. Zhong Liqian drew the structure of the interior of the Purple Spirit Pavilion with tea on the table, and after drawing it, he nodded to a certain room and said. This is the residence of Bailey Qingmiao. Her guest room is right next to the Purple Spirit Pavilion Master's residence. After Wen Renhe looked at the map, his eyes slightly narrowed as he remembered something. I suspect that the other party is coming for Miss Bailey, Zhong Liqian said. I wonder if Lord Wen Renhe has noticed that Miss Bailey's chances are always particularly good. I know. Wen Renhe waved his sleeve to make the water stains on the table evaporate and disappear without leaving any traces, but I am not the only person who knows, there is another person. He briefly recounted the matter of Snow Flame in Wanli ice fields 40 years ago and the fierce beating of the Supreme Elder of the Purple Spirit Pavilion. Then Zhong Liqian said after a brief thought, that's right, it's just as I suspected. The Purple Spirit Pavilion Master has a male body with a female soul. Wen Renhe. If she is the scattered immortal that this venerable injured back then, why did she possess a man's body? I believe we will know in a few days. Zhong Liqian said, holding the bamboo slip. It didn't even take a few days, just the next day the Purple Spirit Pavilion Master took out the protected lock core herb and summoned all the disciples of the Shangqing sect and 3 people of Zhong family, they said. I have dug up the lock core herb and I am willing to hand it over to the Shangqing sect to help save people, but under one condition. As long as it doesn't go against the justice and righteousness path, Shangqing sect will definitely do it. He Wenchao said. This dialogue was exactly the same as the one written in the 2 books. According to the original book plot, Purple Spirit Pavilion Master would ask to marry He Wenchao next. But now that this person becomes a male, how would it develop? Wen Renhe squinted his eyes and observed. It's very simple, Bailey Qingmiao will marry into the Purple Spirit Pavilion. The Purple Spirit Pavilion Master looked at Bailey Qingmiao, who sat closest to him. His eyes were affectionate and he smiled very gently. No, yes. 2 voices sounded at the same time, it was He Wenchao and Lu Xinye. The one who said, no, was naturally He Wenchao. Hearing his wife say, yes, he looked at Lu Xinye angrily. However, in front of outsiders, he will not quarrel with his wife. So after giving her a furious glance, he turned to the Master of Purple Spirit Pavilion and said. Although this matter does not violate justice, it is also a lifelong event for my younger martial sister. I can't promise it. It's not your place to say yes or no, right? The Purple Spirit Pavilion Master ignored He Wenchao and looked at Bailey Qingmiao, placing lock core herb right in front of her and saying. As long as you nod your head and make a soul contract with us, this thing is yours. Not only marrying him but also having a soul contract. Cultivators seldom formed a soul contract. Once the soul contract was formed, they really will live and die together. Even when He Wenchao and Lu Xinye got married, he did not form a soul contract with his wife. In abusive love affair, He Wenchao and Bailey Qingmiao also did not form a soul contract till the end. In the God of Destruction, blood demonic ancestor also taught He Wenchao that he should never form a soul contract for love, because being tied to that person for life and death would be a burden. Elder martial brother, it's about Master's life. Lu Xinye stared at her husband and said word after word, the Pavilion Master is a Mahayana stage cultivator, forming a soul contract with him will only benefit junior martial sister Bailey and not harm her. Also under the soul contract, both parties cannot betray each other. Since the Pavilion Master has made this request, he would by no means treat sister Bailey as a menace. The younger material sister has not yet refused, so why are you so excited about it? You. He Wenchao pointed at his wife and nearly slapped Lu Xinye. He did his best to suppress his anger and ran to Bailey Qingmiao saying. Junior martial sister, you must think clearly, don't wrong yourself. In the original book, when Bailey Qingmiao heard that Purple Spirit Pavilion Master wanted to marry He Wenchao, she was in so much pain that she cried and begged him to not marry. At this point, He Wenchao said something similar to Lu Xinye. Junior martial sister, it's about the life of the Master. At the moment, because of the Purple Spirit Pavilion Master gender change, He Wen Chao said the exact opposite words. Wen Renha guessed in his heart 7 or 8 points but didn't speak. He just narrowed his eyes to see how Bailey Qingmiao would choose. Xiu Huai was the junior generation disciple, so he was not qualified to speak on such occasions. But he also knew that his master was a simpleton. He advanced to the Golden Core realm because of the body of the ghost cultivator, attracting a heavenly calamity comparable to the soul transformation realm, and became seriously injured. In order to save him, his master went behind his back to Ruohui Valley to seek out medical cultivators. The doctor not only separated this master in discipline from immortal Qingxue and Zhong Liqian, but also asked for her nascent soul in exchange, and his silly master really planned to hand it over. Fortunately, Zhong Liqian was smart and arrived just in time to break the formation. Master Qingxue beat the scattered immortal medical cultivator severely, and said that she would refine him into a ghost cultivator to eat, so the scattered immortal medical cultivator was forced by Master Qingxue to save Xiu Huai. From that time onwards, Xiu Huai really recognized Bailey Qingmiao as a simpleton. It was also because of her stupidity that he was willing to let Qingxue fool around with his soul-bound magical weapon. Otherwise, which cultivator would be willing to use that kind of magic weapon, if it wasn't for the sake of their master? Fearing that his master would say yes, he reached out to pinch the back of Qingxue's hand wildly. She was the person with highest cultivation and seniority here, so she was the only one qualified to refuse for Bailey Qingmiao. "What are you pinching me for?" Qingxue glared at Xiu Huai. "Say it frankly." Xiu Huai. Good thing Zhong Liqian was already used to his 3 companions' way of getting along, so he quickly got up and said. "The Purple Spirit Pavilion Master might not know, but Miss Bailey is not able to double cultivate with others." "Oh. Why?" The Master of Purple Spirit Pavilion sat lazily in his chair, looking intently at Zhong Liqian. His eyes were even more gentle than when he looked at Bailey Qingmiao. Bailey Qingmiao also got up and said. "Pavilion Master, because of the chance encounter I have the same compulsion goo as Big Brother Zhong. This compulsion goo is very powerful, and even after 30 years, Brother Zhong, who is Mahayana realm cultivator, is not able to deal with it. To be honest, young Master Zhong cultivation advances rapidly, and he is only 1 step away from advancing. The reason he has been suppressing his cultivation is all because of me." Seeing Bailey Qingmiao refuse, Xiu Huai breathed a sigh of relief. "Oh. Can I see your compulsion goo?" the Purple Spirit Pavilion Master said. He clasped his hands on the veins of Bailey Qingmiao and Zhong Liqian respectively, and after the infusion of his genuine qi he saw that there were indeed compulsion goo resonating, and with his power he could not destroy them at the same time. He murmured. "No, how could it be? It shouldn't be like this." When Wen Renha heard the words of Purple Spirit Pavilion Master, his expression slightly paused as he looked at this person more intently. This person looked somewhat similar to the scattered immortal that he fought before, yet not exactly the same. That scattered immortal had taken fancy to Bailey Qingmiao innate godhood more than 40 years ago, but had never made a move, holding back until now. Had something changed? When Renha thought for a moment, and a bold idea emerged in his mind. Zhong Wenzuan stretched lazily as if he was not interested in the internal affairs of the Shangqing sect and took out a book out from his sleeve. The people around who saw him read the book, although they felt it was a bit rude, didn't say anything. After all, this was a marriage matter, and it also didn't seem good to watch the play with an indifferent gaze. The hands of the Zhong family never leave the book. After all, Zhong Liqian's soul-bound magic weapon was also a bamboo book. Perhaps this book was also Zhong Wenzuan's magical weapon. But the book looked strange. There was a man drawn on the cover, not in the popular ink painting style of the mortal world but in color. The character eyebrows and eyes proportion were somewhat exaggerated, but still make him look very handsome. On the cover of the book there were also a few words written, "The God of Destruction, Volume 1, When the Master of Purple Spirit Pavilion saw the book he immediately let go of Bailey Qingmiao and Zhong Liqian, suddenly staring at the book in Wen Renha hands. "How did you get?" He opened his mouth but stopped after saying just a few words. He then coldly swept the crowd and said, "Since you do not agree with Bailey Qingmiao marriage to me, there is nothing to talk about today. Come back to me when you change your mind." After saying this, the man turned around and left, leaving several guests looking at each other. Wen Renhe transmitted messages respectively to Zhong Liqian and Yin Hanjiang, who noticed the problem. "Don't come to my room for a while, give this man a little time to reveal himself." He took the book and went back to his room alone, lying on the bed and reading for a while. When he heard a knock on the door outside, he opened it and saw a woman saying that the Purple Pavilion Master had something important to discuss, and hoped that Mr. Zhong could go to the Pavilion Master's room alone. Wen Renhe was not afraid to go alone with the book. After entering the room, the Purple Pavilion Master locked the door and laid down several formations before saying grimly, "Where did you get this book? Why did you deliberately take it out? What did you know? I don't understand what the Pavilion Master is saying." Wen Renhe said, "I just picked up an idle book, the writing is quite interesting, so I took it out to read while I was bored. If you can get this book, I'm sure you are not Zhong Wenzuan. Zhong Lifei, Sun Jingqi, Yao Jieping, you are Zhong Lifei." Purple Spirit Pavilion Master said sharply, "It is rumored that you have been disposed of by the Zhong family. Could it be that you took over Zhong Wenzuan body to be reborn? Yes, you have this book, so you should also know the method of rebirth. If you call me a Zhong Lifei, so be it." Wen Renhe flipped through the book and said, "But there is a point in this book that is really interesting. It is written here, the Purple Spirit Pavilion Master is a great beauty. The wife of Yuan Chao is a gentle and virtuous woman. When I came to Purple Spirit Pavilion, I was a little surprised to see that the Purple Spirit Pavilion Master was a male. Give me this book." Purple Spirit Pavilion Master said angrily, reaching out to grab it. Wen Renhe dodged and directly said, "Since it has already come to this, you shouldn't hide it. I've got the God of Destruction, Volume 1, did you get the other book? How about we exchange books with each other?" The Purple Spirit Pavilion Master, after hearing Wen Renhe words, became silent for a while before saying, "I got the third volume, the final volume of this book. Do you know why this book is called God of Destruction? It's mentioned in the final volume. If you want to know, show me the first volume first." Edited by Ninja, proofread by Neo. Chapter 42. Meeting on the Battleground. You are listening at novelfull.audio. For Wen Renhe, exchange was impossible, not to mention this life, previous life or the afterlife. He only needed to make sure that the God of Destruction, Volume 3, was in the hands of the Purple Spirit Pavilion Master. As to where it was, whether it was true or not, and whether the other party was willing to take it out, it didn't matter. Anyway, he will definitely make him take it out. Wen Renhe very naturally opened his hands and said, "In that case, show me the third volume." "What? Ha 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 ha, ridiculous." The Purple Spirit Pavilion Master shook his head and said to Wen Renhe, "You really deserve the name of Zhong Lifei. Do you know what kind of person you are facing?" With that, the other party raised his hands with a pair of golden bells tied between his wrists. The Purple Spirit Pavilion Master slightly shook the bells, and the crisp ringing sound was accompanied by a terrifying attack of chi and sound waves. The surrounding array also hummed. The spirit stone in the four corners of the room was engraved with patterns that belonged exclusively to the Purple Spirit Pavilion and were activated by sound waves, and countless golden patterns appeared, trapping Wen Renhe inside. The golden patterns tightened and wrapped around Wen Renhe as the Purple Spirit Pavilion Master wrist shook slightly. This was a double attack on the physical body and soul. He laid the formation long before Zhong Lifei entered the door. Even if Zhong Lifei had been promoted to the peak of the Mahayana realm by using the first volume of the book to obtain the heavenly treasures of the cultivation world in these decades, he was still of the level of the cultivation world. The formation he researched from the third volume was a divine formation. Even if his power can't bring out its full power of the divine formation, as long as he was prepared, he could even trap heavenly immortal. "Zhong Lifei, I don't have any conflict of interest with you. I just want to take a look at the first volume, why do you have to hold on to it? The Purple Spirit Pavilion Master saw that Zhong Lifei had been completely trapped by the golden pattern and blocked the golden bell between the wrist, saying confidently. This venerable is holding on to it, Wen Renhe said, standing leisurely in the center of the formation. This venerable is thinking about a difficult matter. This venerable. The Purple Spirit Pavilion Master frowned. This self-proclaimed address reminded him of unpleasant memories, but it did not matter. Even if he really met that person today, he would not be afraid anymore. You even dare to call yourself venerable? Wen Renhe put away the book and sighed. From the time you made your move, this venerable was thinking of the way of suppressing you without alerting the bystanders. The excessive power of this venerable's cultivation is really a troublesome matter. What a big tone. Although the Purple Spirit Pavilion Master was strong in his mouth, he still used the golden bell and watched Zhong Lifei warily, worried that he got some secret skill from the first volume. I really do not want to reveal my whereabouts, but well. Since I already know why you changed from female to male, it is probably okay to reveal my identity. Wen Renhe slowly got up as his scholar's elegant clothes turned into his black robe with golden pattern, while in his hand appeared halberds of the same color. You are not Zhong Lifei, you are Wen Renhe. Purple Spirit Pavilion Master said in shock, his pupils shrinking slightly as if he remembered some tragic experience. 40.2 years ago this venerable made a 100-year appointment with you, hoping that you will have power to fight this venerable in 100 years. Wen Renhe laughed. But now it seems that even if I give you another 1,000 years, it will only be this, so this venerable doesn't have the patience to wait. After saying that, the 7 stars killing halberd glowed with a blinding light. His power was so strong that it made the whole Taiyin mountain shake. What's going on? The people of the Shangqing sect, who were gathered in Beili Qingmiao room discussing important matters, felt the vibration under their feet and could not help asking. Is the mountain fire about to erupt? Yao Wendan wondered. At this time Qiu Congshue's body reaction speed was faster than her brain. She immediately picked up Xiu Huai in one hand and Beili Qingmiao in another, shouting. Run, the farther away from the Taiyin mountain, the better. This sentence was not a warning for Shangqing sect people but for Zhong Liqian. Zhong Liqian had vaguely guessed what had happened since the ground shook, so hearing Qiu Congshue warning, he didn't hesitate to decisively leave with her. As the ground began to shake, Qiu Congshue and Zhong Liqian escaped from the rooms of Purple Spirit Pavilion to Misty Morning Bell as ground split in a matter of moment and Misty Morning Bell shattered. The Purple Spirit Pavilion's mountain protection array cracked. Without protective array suppressing them, everyone could fly. Qiu Congshue and Zhong Liqian did not hesitate to fly directly to an altitude of nearly 1,000 meters high before stopping. Master, what happened? Xiu Huai, who had never seen Wen Renhe before, asked in a panic. Qiu Congshue put down Xiu Huai and Beili Qingmiao and said in a cold voice. Just look at the sky, such a heavenly phenomenon. The last time I saw one was 30.1 years ago. Xiu Huai looked up at the sky, only to feel that the sky was dark and gloomy and all stars were dull except 2. Only 2 stars shone as brilliantly as the moon, Alcade and Polis. 30.1 years ago, during the war between the demonic and the righteous path, when Wen Renhe and 20.1 experts fought with all their might in the final battle, the Polis star was blindingly bright. The temperature of the mountain fire is so terrifying that if a cultivator below the soul transformation realm touched it, his soul would be destroyed. He Wenchao with a few of his brothers and sisters who were above the soul transformation realm rescued the other people and met up with Qiu Congshue and the others before the fire came. In less than a quarter of an hour, the formerly snow-covered Taiyin mountain top was already covered with lava, the fiery red liquid of terrifyingly high temperature that distorted the air, instantly turning Purple Spirit Pavilion into a human hell. What happened? He Wenchao put his arm around Lu Xinye, who was frightened, and asked. Why did the mountain fire suddenly erupted? What about Zhong Wenzuan and Zhong Yinjiang? Qiu Congshue coldly glanced at him and raised her finger slightly, pointing to the center of the lava. When He Wenchao looked down he saw a man in black robes with a golden pattern holding a halberd, standing on top of the lava. Behind him shone a cold sword light. When the ground collapsed and the mountain fire erupted, everyone fled to the sky. Only Yin Hanjiang against the spewing mountain fire sought his lord who was confronting Purple Spirit Pavilion Master. You, it's really you, it's really you. The Purple Spirit Pavilion Master pointed at the two of them, and the memories of 40.2 years ago when she was violently beaten emerged again. It was as if the scene was replayed, snow turned into a flaming inferno and she met a crushing defeat under a halberd and a sword. You guessed right, this book really belonged to Zhong Wen Renhe said steadily. Zhong Lifei was killed by this venerable and his book naturally belongs to this venerable, and so does yours. Wen Renhe squeezed the arm of the Purple Spirit Pavilion Master and before the Purple Spirit Pavilion Master could resist, he felt a sharp pain in his arm. It was not a physical pain, but the pain of his soul being torn apart and melted. He hurriedly used his genuine qi to cut off his arm but failed to stop the erosion of his soul. He could only bear the pain and split the soul. Gasping for air he turned to see his arm that turned into bloody water and fell into Wen Renhe's hands. A sweet smell of blood rushed into Wen Renhe's nose. He stared at the blood that was floating on his palm, knowing that as long as it was absorbed the genuine qi he consumed would help him recover the lost arm. After all, it was the qi of a scattered immortal. Wen Renhe looked at it for a while, smiled faintly and let it go. Blood fell and disappeared into the lava. The mountain fire absorbed the genuine qi of Purple Spirit Pavilion Master and emitted gray smoke. It was clear that his body no longer felt painful but his heart felt like it was burned. You are a blood cultivator, why are you a blood cultivator? Purple Spirit Pavilion Master asked. He also wanted to ask some questions, but it was a pity that Yin Hanjiang did not give him a chance to speak. The Alcade sword was unstoppable, and a sword cut through Purple Spirit Pavilion Master's throat. Venerable wants your book, your only right is to give it or not. Yin Hanjiang said coldly. The unemotional gaze of these cultivators made Purple Spirit Pavilion Master deeply realize that he was not qualified to argue in front of the two. If he decided to hand over the book, he might be able to save his life and if he didn't, he would die. You are very strong, probably no one in the whole cultivation world is stronger than you Wen Renhe. I admit that. The Purple Spirit Pavilion Master smiled bitterly. He could no longer make a sound with his throat so he transmitted a message to him alone. But Venerable you will eventually die, everyone will die, and only one person will survive. I'll say it one more time. Trade Volume 1 for Volume 3. Do you think that as long as you don't hand it over, this Venerable will throw in the towel and not dare to make things difficult for you? Wen Renhe said coldly. You probably don't know this Devil Venerable cultivation methods are soul regeneration, soul searching, puppets, compulsions. Everything, Patriarch Yin, take him back to the Shenyuan sect. Yin Hanjiang picked up the dying Purple Spirit Pavilion Master and was about to leave when Yi Wenchao unexpectedly rushed over. Who are you? What are you going to do with Purple Spirit Pavilion Master? Me Yi Wenchao from Shangqing sect will never allow you to harm the Purple Spirit Pavilion. No matter how much Wen Renhe and readers of Abusive Love Affair despised Yi Wenchao as the male protagonist of the two novels, Yi Wenchao's appearance was almost impeccable. He was not as powerful as Wen Renhe, not as wise and elegant as Zhong Liqian, not as silent and loyal as Yin Hanjiang and even not as charming as Xiu Huai but was still handsome and righteous. The author gave him a flawless face, which made him look like a righteous elite. As a future pillar of the cultivation world his eyebrows were like swords and star-like eyes, his gaze full of sadness for Purple Spirit Pavilion Master. No matter how strong he was he would not allow people to hurt Purple Spirit Pavilion Master in front of him. Wen Renhe knew that Yi Wenchao was indeed such a person. No matter which novel it was, he had to admit that Yi Wenchao was a righteous person, and would be stabbed with a knife for the sake of his brothers. He even sacrificed his sweetheart to save his brothers and elders. In the book, he did bad things with good intentions, not because of his bad character but because he was being misled and deceived. There had been some comments in The God of Destruction saying that this was the common routine in cultivation novels. The male protagonist would be full of a sense of justice. The Brotherhood was also well written, but in fact he was very unfriendly to women, as well as his three views were a bit of a drag even for a feudal society. At this moment He Wenchao sincerely wanted to protect Purple Spirit Pavilion Master. It was also the first time that he saw Wen Renha's true appearance and faced the true power of the Devil Venerable. The master in his mind kept telling him to escape, saying that he didn't have a chance to beat Wen Renha at all, but He Wenchao has not retreated. Even if he died today he wanted to save Purple Spirit Pavilion Master. Bailey Qingmiao and the others also followed. She looked at her senior martial brother and the fierce-looking senior Wen Renha in a daze and opened her mouth to plead for mercy. Wen Renha said, "Bailey Qingmiao, if you dare to say one word, this venerable will kill one of your Shangqing sect people. This venerable doesn't like when people talk too much. I would like to see how many people from your Shangqing sect would be enough for you to plead for mercy." Bailey Qingmiao hurriedly covered her mouth, too afraid to say anything. However, other disciples of the Shangqing sect were not afraid of death and shouted, "Little sister, don't be afraid. Let's attack together. No matter how strong he is, we mustn't let him take Purple Spirit Pavilion Master," he said as he leaned toward Immortal Qingxue, hoping to get some support. But before his voice fell, his chest was pierced by a hand made of only white bones. He turned back with difficulty and saw that the one who had assassinated him was the very same Immortal Qingxue he wanted to rely on. People in the Shenyuan sect never turn their back to fellow disciples. Xiao Zongxue withdrew her hand and drew out the disciple's nascent soul, then she said eerily, "No matter how strong you are and how big your words are, relying on heaven and earth is not as good as relying on yourself." The heat wave blew up her black robe, revealing her half-flesh and half-withered bone body. In the past 30 years, Qiu Zongxue could actually cultivate flesh, but she was very satisfied with her current appearance. She has been studying how to exert the power of a scattered immortal in half of her body and cultivated the ghost path with the other half, walking firmly on the road of cultivation without wavering. She was also inspired by Xiu Huai who, having the soul of a ghost cultivator, cultivated Shangqing sect method using his physical body. If he continued to live in the original book no one knew what kind of Tao he would cultivate. Qiu Zongxue threw the body of the Shangqing sect disciple into the magma. He Wenchao hurriedly caught up with it and grabbed the disciple's body at the last moment. His arm was burned by the mountain fire. "Elder Qingxue, why did you do that?" He Wenchao asked in shock. "I am the left protector of the Shenyuan sect, Qiu Zongxue." Half of Qiu Zongxue's face gradually turned into dry bones as she gave a half-amiable half-frightened smile to Bailey Qingmiao. 30.1 years ago, thanks to Miss Bailey's help I was rescued. Otherwise this protector would have entered the reincarnation cycle a long time ago. Master Qingxue, you, Bailey Qingmiao, tears streamed down her eyes. She couldn't believe that her master was a member of a demonic sect and so heartless. "I will return this thing to you." Qiu Zongxue threw the soul of that Shangqing sect disciple to Bailey Qingmiao. "This protector owes you a life in future. If you are in trouble and need help I will definitely step in." Bailey Qingmiao caught the disciple's soul, and her whole expression seemed like she was struck by the lightning. The person she desperately tried to save back then was actually a member of the demonic sect who had killed countless practitioners of the righteous path. The master she always admired would mercilessly kill her martial brother. Zhong Liqian felt her pain, sighing quietly. He has grown over the years and learned many things. But he still couldn't guess the heart of this Devil Venerable Wen Renha and understand him. He walked up to the master of the Purple Spirit Pavilion and persuaded. "Pavilion Master, whatever Lord Wen Renha wants, Liqian advises you to give it to him. From what I know about Lord Wen Renha, if he promised not to hurt you he would not go back on his word." "What do you know?" The Purple Spirit Pavilion Master's throat was cut so only "gu" and "ah" sounds came out. But he still kept insisting, I don't want to live like that, even if I die now, I don't want to live like that. He grabbed Alkaid's sword and pulled it out with great force, staring at Wenrenha with fierce eyes, while preparing the genuine chi in his body to self-destruct himself. Unexpectedly, Wenrenha raised his hand and let bloody mist enter his body, instantly taking over the control of Purple Spirit Pavilion Master body, so even if he wanted to die he couldn't. This makes this venerable curious, what is written in the third volume. That you would rather die than give the book to this venerable. Wenrenha secretly transmitted his voice. Edited by Ninja, proofread by Neo. Chapter 43. Burning Heaven Immortal. You are listening at novelfull.audio. No matter what, Wenrenha was going to take Purple Spirit Pavilion Master today. As for the matter of the disciples of the Shangqing sect not being able to save the sect master without the locked core herb, it had nothing to do with him. In fact, he was the one who injured the sect master, so it would be a joke if Wenrenha helped him now. He Wenchao saw that Yin Hanjiang was going to take the Purple Spirit Pavilion Master away, and wanted to rush forward to save him, but was pulled back by fellow disciples. Elder Martial Brother, even Immortal Qingxue is an undercover agent of Xianyuan sect. We don't have any chance to win, rather. We need to bear it. Lu Xinye said as she hugged He Wenchao's waist. He Wenchao's body softened, but his fists were clenched hard, regretting his powerlessness. They didn't scream in front of this Devil Venerable anymore, so Wenrenha naturally decided to not kill them. In addition, He Wenchao was related to the plot of the third volume. Before seeing the God of Destruction, Volume 3, Wenrenha decided to keep him for the time being. Before leaving, Wenrenha looked at Bailey Qingmiao, who looked lost, and transmitted his voice. You can go back to Xianyuan sect with this venerable. Qiu Zongxue deliberately exposed her identity in order not to be pushed out to fight Wenrenha. Wenrenha also didn't care. He never expected Qiu Zongxue to have any effect as an undercover agent. But being able to stir up the relationship between He Wenchao and Bailey Qingmiao to this point had far exceeded his expectations. But her identity will definitely put Bailey Qingmiao in an awkward situation. If she returned to the Shangqing sect, what awaited her was unknown. That is why Wenrenha let Bailey Qingmiao choose. Bailey Qingmiao shook her head but didn't speak. She was hit hard. If Zhong Liqian didn't forcibly control her emotions, she would have cried on the spot. Qiu Zongxue stretched out her hand to Xiu Huai. She planned to train Xiu Huai as a master of underworld fire altar. Xiu Huai silently refused. His master was too stupid, he had to follow her. Zhong Liqian nodded to Wenrenha, their compulsion gu who provided balance, so he must return to Shangqing sect with Bailey Qingmiao. With him around, Bailey Qingmiao will not need to worry about her life. The people of the Shangqing sect could only watch Wenrenha and the others leave. After a moment of standstill, Bailey Qingmiao took out her windless silver moon ribbon and rushed to fire. He Wenchao yelled. Martial sister, what are you doing? Saving people. Bailey Qingmiao wiped away her tears. Zhong Liqian's calmness made her understand what to do now. She was no longer sad over Master Qingxue's betrayal, or shocked by Wenrenha's ruthlessness, but searched for survivors in the sea of fire, saving everyone she could. Zhong Liqian, who felt Bailey Qingmiao's mood, secretly sighed and said to Xiu Huai. Do you know why no matter how confused Bailey Qingmiao, I will find a way to help her get rid of her love? Xiu Huai shook his head. Because she has great love. Zhong Liqian removed white cloth blindfold, looking down at the sea of fire beneath his feet. Knowing that Qiu Zongxue is a member of the demonic sect, knowing fully well that she saved the wrong person, she doesn't regret it and still lends a helping hand to those in need. After 22 years together, Xiu Huai saw Zhong Liqian's eyes for the first time. It was a pair of wise eyes full of indifference and thoroughness. With the help of the tracking spell, Zhong Liqian clearly saw things that others could not see. He saw that when Bailey Qingmiao rushed into the sea of fire, the mountain fire withdrew and opened up a path for her. The mountain fire was afraid of her and couldn't bear to hurt her. She was burned by fire but didn't retreat and kept searching. The other disciples of the Shangqing sect didn't help her look. He Wenchao, who wanted to go with Bailey Qingmiao, was stopped by Lu Xinye, who held him firmly by the waist, indicating that if he went, she will accompany him to death. He Wenchao was angry but couldn't bear to push Lu Xinye away. After watching for a while, Zhong Liqian closed his eyes and covered them with the blindfold. Master Zhong. Xiu Huai looked at him in confusion. Zhong Liqian said to the Shangqing sect crowd, "See for yourself." They saw a person rush out of the sea of fires, her palm pulling windless silver moon ribbon. At the other end of the windless silver moon ribbon were dozens of unconscious Purple Spirit Pavilion female disciples, one of whom was holding mature lock core herb in his arms. Bailey Qingmiao's legs were burned by the mountain fire, so she relied on Xiu Huai to stand firm. She rubbed off the ashes on her face, and said with a grimace, "The disciples of the Purple Spirit Pavilion are not dead, but they were transferred to the unripe lock core herb by someone. The lock core herb was ripened by the mountain fire, so the power that flared up when it matured protected them." She also saw that He Wenchao had helped the elder martial brother who had been injured by Qiu Zongxue and returned his soul to his body. When Renhe turned her world upside down but no one died, only the Purple Spirit Pavilion Master was taken away. Bailey Qingmiao looked at Zhong Liqian and fainted. In order to resist the mountain fire, her genuine qi had been depleted. The people of the Shangqing sect finally got the lock core herb, so they took Purple Spirit Pavilion disciplines and Bailey Qingmiao and traveled back to the sect. On the way back no one spoke, everyone's mood was very complicated. He Wenchao clenched his fist and said to his master in his mind, "Master, the demonic path is too arrogant. Back then, he set me up with a beauty ploy that led to the breaking of the desperate spirit formation. Now he almost killed all Shangqing sect and Purple Spirit Pavilion disciplines. I want to become stronger and get rid of the demonic path leader, Wenrenha." Well, the blood demon ancestor said in his mind, "Actually, there is a way." "What solution?" He Wenchao's eyes lit up. "Because I'm an ancient cultivator, I can see that the cultivation heart method Wenrenha is using makes it easy for him to be possessed by heart demons. If his cultivation goes wrong, it will be easy to deal with him, but you will need a helper," the blood demon ancestor said. He was the first blood cultivator in the cultivation world. Naturally, he could see that Wenrenha did not absorb the other people's blood and souls, so he was already at the end of his life. "What kind of helper?" He Wenchao asked. "This well. I'm not too familiar with the current cultivators, but the other day didn't you befriend a nameless cultivator friend? I always felt that he was a bit off. Did he leave you a way to contact him?" "Yes, that fellow cultivator is both righteous and evil, but he is very loyal. I think he is worthy to befriend," the blood demon ancestor with "He" said. "I think his cultivation is mainly demonic." When the people of Shangqing sect returned, Wenrenha had already taken the Purple Spirit Pavilion Master back to Shenyuan sect. He directly called the altar master Miao and threw the person to him, saying, "This venerable wants two things. First, he must voluntarily hand over a book. Second, don't destroy his soul for now, use a milder technique." When altar master Miao heard Wenrenha order, he actually revealed a cheerful and excited smile. "Yes, sir." Altar Master Wan, who stood next to him, couldn't help wincing. Everyone knew that the one who liked dead people the most in the entire Xianyan sect was Protector Qiu, and the one who disliked killing the most was Altar Master Miao. During the 10 years of the massive demon war, Altar Master Miao would often say that it was a pity to kill these righteous cultivators and it would be good to leave one or two alive to raise goo worms. For so many years, Wenrenha had been suppressing the demon sect's protectors and altar masters, not allowing them to strike at ordinary people. Even if you dealt with the cultivator, you needed to pay attention to the cycle of heaven and the cycle of cause and effect. Altar Master Miao held back for many years and was not able to raise any new poisonous goo. He could only raise them using his own body. However, His body couldn't be invaded by any kinds of poisons, so he couldn't see the effect of the goo worms he raised himself. He raised hundreds kinds of poisonous goo but he couldn't experiment, which made him even more ambiguous. Today, someone gave him a living person to feed a poisonous goo to after so long, so the altar master couldn't help feeling very happy. He repeatedly promised that he would not let the purple spirit pavilion master die and will definitely make him live well. Altar Master Yuan looked at Altar Master Miao's joyful expression and couldn't help wrapping his Xuanwu armor around himself that looked like a large turtle shell, going further and further away from Altar Master Miao. After throwing the man to Altar Master Miao, Wen Renhe stopped paying attention to him. He only cared about the result. As for the process, Wen Renhe did not care. Chasing away the disciple of the General Altar, he walked slowly back to his rooms. Yin Hanjiang still followed behind him, without a single question about his lord's actions. "You go out." After returning to the room, Wen Renhe turned his back to Yin Hanjiang and said to him, "Yes." Yin Hanjiang turned to leave and was about to close the door when he was dragged back into the room by a huge force. Only to see a person in front of him staring at him with red eyes. The palm of his hand pressing against Yin Hanjiang's neck, and his fingertips pressing against his chin, carefully examining his face, as if hesitating where to start. "My lord." Yin Hanjiang looked at Wen Renhe without any sense of crisis, but the Alcade sword held by him emitted the sound of protecting its master. The divine weapon protected its owner, so whenever the sword sensed danger, it would emit sound to alert its owner. Yin Hanjiang usually did not put his own magic weapon into his body, so the Alcade sword vibrated and popped out of its scabbard. The tip of the sword pointed toward Wen Renhe. The 7 stars killing halberd in Wen Renhe body, feeling the hostile intent of the Alcade sword, trembled to alert Wen Renhe. Wen Renhe licked his dry lips, quietly closed his eyes and let go of Yin Hanjiang. "Venerable." Yin Hanjiang restrained his wildly beating heart and suppressed his arms that wanted to hug his lord, so he clasped his arms with both hands, and said calmly, "What are venerable orders?" "Patriarch Yin, in some time this venerable will go to the underworld Blood Sea. Then you will stay in the Shenyuan sect, acting as the patriarch. Before that, this venerable hopes that you can advance to the Mahayana realm as soon as possible to convince others." Wen Renhe turned his back to him to not look directly at Yin Hanjiang. Yin Hanjiang's gaze was stagnant for a moment. He knew that Wen Renhe was a blood cultivator and would definitely have to go to the underworld Blood Sea to cultivate in the future. He also knew that he was not powerful enough to survive there, and it would be better to stay in the Shenyuan sect to make him worry less about future. But he lowered his head and said firmly, "This subordinate will follow your orders." After leaving Wen Renhe's room, Yin Hanjiang immediately felt a formation laid behind him, making it impossible for him to feel his lord's aura. He stared at his slightly trembling hands, took out his ghost mask and put it on his face. After the ghost mask was put on, Yin Hanjiang miraculously calmed down. It was as if a voice in his head was saying, "It's okay, just wait for Venerable to set off, then you can secretly follow again." After the ghost mask was taken off, Yin Hanjiang thought to himself, "But what should we do with the Shenyuan sect if Venerable will be gone for too long?" Putting on the ghost mask, the voice in his head said, "Is it not easy to govern the Shenyuan sect? Protector Shu and Protector Chiu don't get along. Protector Chiu also wanted to kill Altar Master Shirtan to take over the underworld fire altar. Altar Master Yuan has a grudge against Altar Master Miao. Altar Master Shirtan can restrain Altar Master Miao's goo, and Altar Master Yuan is worried that Protector Shu would kill him to take over the General Altar Master position. Think of the way to make them fight each other for 100 years, by then Venerable should already be back." Yin Hanjiang took off his mask. His eyes were dull, but after a while he moved his neck stiffly like a puppet and showed a bright smile. Inside the room, when Renhe summoned the 7 stars killing halberd, holding the magic weapon that was about to flee, the magic weapon became one with him. The blood chi boiled as it wanted to break out of his body, no longer recognizing him as master. When Renha stared at the 7 stars killing halberd, and in his brain image suddenly emerged the thought that he could turn 7 stars killing halberd into blood fog and absorb it using this method. He slapped his forehead hard, and only then did he manage to calm himself down. You can't be possessed, at least not for now. When Renha initially believed that since at the end of the first volume of the God of Destruction the male protagonist ascended to the immortal world, then the second and third volumes would no longer appear in the cultivation world and he would need to ascend to the immortal world to find the second volume. Unexpectedly, the third volume appeared early, and judging from the time, it was not much later than the first volume. Saw it possible that the 3 volumes appeared at the same time, and he was just lucky enough to grab the first volume, while the other 2 volumes had already been grabbed by others. The person chosen for the abusive love affair was the most important male supporting character when Renha. For the God of Destruction, Volume 1, Zhong Lifei was chosen as the best friend of male lead. For the third volume it was the male lead's wife who was the master of Purple Spirit Pavilion. They were all important supporting characters. From it could be deduced, the person who received the second volume should also be supporting characters. The supporting characters who received books were all people who seemed to be very good to the male lead or heroine in the book. According to the current information, the most likely to get the second volume of the book was He Wenchao's good friend, demonic cultivator Cin or the scattered immortal medical cultivator Yao Jieping. He already started looking for Cin Jingqi, and while medical cultivator Yao Jieping who was a scattered immortal was uncertain, it was also difficult to find this person. In fact, if the book was the hands of medical cultivator Yao Jieping it was okay, he was scattered immortal, but if he wanted to deal with such big sects as Xianyuan sect or the Shangqing sect it would still be difficult. The worst outcome was if the second volume fell into the hands of Cin Jingqi, the traitor of the demonic sect. If he gets the second volume, some of the content of the first volume could be deducted from it. The situation when he was kept in the dark while the enemy had a clear view of the situation would be quite bad. For this reason, it was necessary to get the third volume, even if the closed-mouthed master of the Purple Spirit Pavilion skin was cut and peeled. When Altar Master Miao interrogated the master of the Purple Spirit Pavilion, when Renha had been cultivating his body and reciting the clear heart mantra silently. After 7 days of solitude and calmness, he was in a much better condition. After these 7 days, Altar Master Miao also sent a message that the Purple Spirit Pavilion Master could not hold on anymore and wanted to see Wen Renha. In order to suppress his demonic nature, Wen Renha blocked from his 5 senses smell, taste and touch, leaving only his sense of sight and hearing. Then he took Yin Hanjiang, who looked the same as always, to see Altar Master Miao. In a brightly lit room in the Altar Master Miao's branch, the Purple Spirit Pavilion Master was lying on the floor as if he was dead, without any visible injuries on his body. Not sure how many gu planted in his body. When Renha asked everyone to wait outside the room, wanting to be alone with the Purple Spirit Pavilion Master. After closing his sense of smell and taste, he couldn't speak, so he transmitted his voice. Did you think about it? Huh, the Purple Spirit Pavilion Master said with difficulty, you really deserve to be a Devil Venerable, you can make life worse than death. I never thought it was possible before. You ordered Altar Master Miao to use all his gu just to make me give you the book. This Venerable gave you a chance and you refused, now you are not qualified to bargain with this Venerable. Wen Renha transmitted. Hand over the third volume, this Venerable will read it and then decide whether to take out the gu from your body. You can refuse again, this Venerable is not in a hurry. But the Purple Spirit Pavilion Master did not want to endure this pain for another day, he just hesitated a moment and gave up on his resistance before taking out a book. No one knew where he had hid his storage magic treasure. When Renha was not afraid that he would try to tamper with it, he didn't have the guts. The Devil Venerable reached out to receive the third volume. On the cover there was a ruined temple and a man standing in front of it. Only the back of the man could be seen and it looked overwhelmingly lonely and depressing. He opened the volume, and read on the title page. Due to excessive plot holes the plot was not recognized by the readers. Therefore, choose a character closest to male protagonist to help him form a soul contract with Bailey Qingmiao. The task of this volume was to set up male and female protagonists. Why? He opened the second page. Different from the first volume, the third volume had an additional summary. It was not the summary of the first volume, but the content of the second volume. Previously on. He Wenchao took his wife Purple Spirit Pavilion Master and Bailey Qingmiao to the Divine Realm after going through a lot of trouble to get rid of the immortal Emperor of Burning Heaven. Burning Heaven Immortal. Should be like him, the final mastermind of a volume that He Wenchao finally defeated. Or just like the reader liked to call it, a big boss. Burning Heaven. Looking at these two words, Wen Renhe couldn't help but think of the top immortal weapon of Xianyuan Sect's Burning Sky Drums. Edited by Ninja, proofread by Neo. Chapter 44. Innate Godhood. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 44. Innate Godhood. He put aside his doubts for the time being and continued to read, expecting to get information about the immortal Emperor of Burning Heaven in the third volume. But the third volume, except for the dialogue of the main characters, mentioned the name of the immortal Emperor of Burning Heaven twice, and then never mentioned it again. Wen Renhe quickly skimmed through the third volume. The story of the book started after He Wenchao entered the Divine Realm and was recognized by the gods who he was good friends with in the past life as the reincarnation of the acquired god who had fallen. He then continued to slap faces of some acquired gods. The Divine Realm at that time was already full of acquired gods since all innate gods had already fallen. The first 2/3 of the story was quite harmonious. He Wenchao's former friends and wives had ascended to the Divine World and in the Divine World made new friends and married new wives. Just like in the first volume, there were also many scenes where Bailey Qingmiao disappeared from time to time while Purple Spirit Pavilion Master had been following He Wenchao and had a good relationship with his new wives. After 1/3, the plot went straight downhill. First of all, one day, He Wenchao's friend who was the post-apocalyptic god went berserk and became a demon, then their group killed their companion in pain. At the same time, it was reported that the underworld blood sea boundary was broken and the 180,000 demon gods sealed by the ancient gods had rushed out from the demon realm and destroyed the earth. That friend who became a demon still had a direct bloodline on earth, so this bloodline was used to turn him into a demon. First, the cultivation world fell, then the immortal world also fell. Gods tenaciously resisted, but the infectious and destructive power of the demon gods was too strong, so everyone was either killed and absorbed or became a demon. In order not to let 180,000 demons invade the divine world, He Wenchao's friends had gone to the immortal world to resist. He Wenchao, who at that time was already the leader of the gods, also wanted to go to the lower realms, but the master in his mind that he always trusted turned his back on him. It turned out that his master was also a demon, a blood cultivator. The reason why he patiently cultivated He Wenchao was to gain an opportunity to devour his body. The blood demon ancestor had been holding back until the world was in turmoil to appear and with the help of the devilish energy from the outside world, wanted to take over He Wenchao body. When He Wenchao could no longer resist, Bailey Qingmiao, who had been hidden for more than 800,000 words, appeared and formed a soul contract with He Wenchao to protect him. However, Bailey Qingmiao was also seriously injured by the blood demon ancestor and died. Due to the soul contract, He Wenchao should also have died along with her, but Bailey Qingmiao also used some way to protect He Wenchao before she died, so even after forming the soul contract they would not die together. After Bailey Qingmiao's death, He Wenchao cried bitterly, the world changed and the three realms collapsed. The human world, the immortal realm, and the divine realm merged into one in an instant. All living beings in the three realms died and the gods and people of the three realms were defeated. Only at that moment did everyone discover that Bailey Qingmiao's past life was that of the last innate goddess born from heaven and earth Qi. She was the goddess of calamity, bringing down death and disaster on earth. Her mission was to bring down death and disaster, balancing excessive production, and achieving a balance between creation and destruction. When she was in the human world, she had already acquired her divine personality and could return to the immortal world, but she gave up her innate goddess character because of her deep love for He Wenchao. Without Bailey Qingmiao's divine control, the divine personality began to stir up calamities on earth indiscriminately, and with the resentment of countless living beings the divine personality became tainted with demonic qi, releasing 180,000 demons from underworld blood sea. Even if Bailey Qingmiao and the gods were no longer connected, her existence still maintained the order of the three realms. The moment Bailey Qingmiao died to save He Wenchao, the last innate god fell and heaven and earth energy got rid of the shackles and wanted to return to the state of chaos. It wanted to fuse the three realms, using the demonic god to absorb the energy of all three realms. Then it transformed into chaotic energy, causing everything to return to nothingness. After He Wenchao knew everything, he brought all his wives and friends to meet for the final battle. All of them died, including demons and demonic gods. After the death of the last wife, the Purple Spirit Pavilion Master, only He Wenchao was left alone in the world. He stood in front of the temple of the God realm, which had already turned into ruins, and looked at the pale earth that was scorched everywhere. Then he entered the demonic energy that was already being transformed into chaotic energy with his body. At the last moment when his whole body was being disintegrated into chaos, the soul contract between He Wenchao and Bailey Qingmiao worked, and he actually absorbed Bailey Qingmiao's divine personality, gained the original control of chaotic power of heaven and earth, making a breakthrough to become a real god. However, heaven and earth were already empty. He became a god with the power to create and destroy the world. He divided the heaven and earth into three realms according to his memory and then created his friends and wives according to his memory. The Purple Spirit Pavilion Master and Bailey Qingmiao were also revived. Everyone lived happily together, spending every day happily. Then it was the end of the text. Wen Renhe. This ending seemed happy, but when you think carefully, the world was different in everyone's eyes, and Wen Renhe, who read both abusive love affair and the god of destruction, was well versed in the truth of it. He Wenchao memory of his friends and family as well as his impression of the three worlds, how could it be real? In the end, He Wenchao chose to accept everything and let the three realms of chaos destroy themselves and give birth to new life. It would still be a new life. Creating the world according to his memory to reunite with friends and his beauties, or will He Wenchao hold on to his imagination for billions of years of solitude? Was his choice to create the world or to destroy it? Not only did Wen Renhe ask such questions, even the readers of the God of Destruction were questioning this ending. I don't care about the emotional scenes, as long as the plot is good and the protagonist gets stronger in a cool manner, but this ending. Are you sure it is he? Turning over to the cover to see the title The God of Destruction, then to the ending, I shudder. Wise people don't speak in secret. I am cheap and I like stallion novels. I like protagonists who marry countless wives, but I want my wives to be alive. I don't want an imaginary wife. Even if he becomes the god who is able to create life, isn't it in the end just fantasy in his head? After thinking about the ending for a long time, isn't the ending kind of bad? It seems not bad, they all resurrected. But why doesn't it feel right? Of course, there were also readers who praised the author for this divine ending. The novel's title also fit the ending perfectly, but there were still some questions and confusion. Wen Renhe also wanted to know whether he could remain sane after spending hundreds of millions of years with false people in his arms. Would he become the demon? The story ended here, but were the people in the story really happy? At least the Purple Spirit Pavilion Master didn't think so. Wen Renhe already had the experience of reading novels, so it was no longer necessary to read it for 7 days and 7 nights as he did when he read Abusive Love Affair. He learned to glance at 10 lines and grasp the key points using his powerful divine sense, so in just a half a day he skimmed through the 3rd volume. At this time the Purple Spirit Pavilion Master was still breathing. When he saw Wen Renhe put down the book and gave him a sight, he said, "This book mentions that you were removed by He Wenchao when he was still in the cultivation world. It also involved me, so I didn't want you to know about this and didn't dare to give this book to you. This venerable knows, if you want to provoke this venerable with this, there is no need. Wen Renha said. He knew the destiny and the ending that the author gave to the Devil Venerable Wen Renha since he read abusive love affair, but he did not care. Wen Renha, who cultivated the path of slaughter, had long looked down upon life and death. If he was alive he would have done his best to live, but if he died he would die peacefully. If he could go against heaven and change his fate he would do it, but he would not be overly sad if he was destined to go. Is that so? The Purple Spirit Pavilion Master looked at Wen Renha's expression and smiled bitterly under his breath and said. I am different from you, I am afraid of death. Not only am I afraid of dying, but I'm even more afraid of being created after death and living by someone else's will. First wife. I know myself I must have married He Wen Chao because I found out that Bailey Qingmiao is infatuated with him and wanted to use this affection to force Bailey Qingmiao to take over her innate godhood. Unfortunately, the divine character was destined to belong to Bailey Qingmiao. No matter how Purple Spirit Pavilion Master in the book framed by Qingmiao, she was able to stubbornly survive. He Wen Chao, who was originally in the palm of her hand, became stronger and stronger and got beyond her strength. She started to wear the mask of a gentle and generous first wife. Fortunately, by following He Wen Chao she could always get good things, so her strength soared while she endured it. But now it's different. If I had known that the soul contract with Bailey Qingmiao had such benefits, why would I still hold on to He Wen Chao and let her go? It would be better to use the male body I possess to marry Bailey Qingmiao. At least I will not marry dozens of wives like He Wen Chao and will be devoted to her. How could I be worse than He Wen Chao? Then her innate godhood will be mine and the position of God will also be mine. The one who survives in the end will also definitely be me. Purple Spirit Pavilion Master's handsome face twisted, due to emotional excitement, countless goo under his skin surged, causing his whole body to twitch in pain. You are reasonable to have such an idea. Wen Renha did not despise the Purple Spirit Pavilion Master, but instead praised him. Daring to possess the body and change the gender without care if it was a man or woman, the Purple Spirit Pavilion Master was really a ruthless person. It's just a pity that the woman described in The God of Destruction was a fake mask he used to disguise himself. All readers thought that she was an affectionate first wife who never complained, much better than the noisy Bailey Qingmiao. Naturally she had no resentment, there can't be resentment without love. In order to extract benefits from He Wen Chao, the Purple Spirit Pavilion Master couldn't wait for He Wen Chao to marry a few more wives, so he will touch her less. Only Bailey Qingmiao, who was infatuated, was unaware of this. Things are often not as simple as they seem. How many truths are hidden under the calm water surface and how many people could see them clearly? Wen Renha put the book away and glanced at the distressed Purple Spirit Pavilion Master and said. I said one thing from the beginning, if you hand over the book I will not kill you. But I have one more thing to ask you, you can possess a male or female body, this venerable has some interest in this method. Wen Renha was already aware of the biggest secret, so Purple Spirit Pavilion Master also no longer resisted and very willingly handed over the heart method. Wen Renha knew after learning the method that it was not suitable for him. The scattered immortal used this technique to turn its body into an immortal spirit, and after driving away the soul of the other party, the immortal spirit will be injected into the 100 acupuncture points, not only to retain the strength of the scattered immortal but also to have a physical body. This possessing technique was very good, but unfortunately it is only effective for scattered immortal and useless for Wen Renha. He secretly sighed and summoned the Altar Master Miao, ordering him to take out the gus from Purple Spirit Pavilion Master. Altar Master Miao with a disappointed expression walked bitterly to Purple Spirit Pavilion Master, muttering in a low voice. Couldn't you fight for a little bit longer? Purple Spirit Pavilion Master. What kind of people were in the Shenyuan sect? Venerable, should this person be killed or nullified? The Altar Master Miao looked like a subordinate who was willing to share his lord's worries. The Purple Spirit Pavilion Master gritted his teeth and said. Wen Renha, you said that you would let me go if I handed over the book. This venerable never breaks his words, but what I promised was to keep you alive. I never said anything about letting you go. Wen Renha coldly said. In the original book Purple Spirit Pavilion Master endured even after going to the divine realm, but after knowing the plot of the book Purple Spirit Pavilion ruthlessly changed his character. This mentality made even Wen Renha feel inferior, so this person couldn't be easily released. He thought about it and said. Give her to Protector Chiu. She worked as an undercover agent in Shangqing sect and made no contribution but still worked hard, losing even her underworld fire altar subordinates, so this venerable wants to reward her a little. Reward Purple Spirit Pavilion Master. Give him to Protector Chiu. Wherever Protector Chiu killed or refined Purple Spirit Pavilion Master into a ghost or immortal, or shook hands to prepare to join forces to assassinate Devil Venerable, Wen Renha ignored it. Altar Master Miao was full of disappointment, but did not dare to disobey Wen Renha order, and took the Purple Spirit Pavilion Master to find Qiu Congxue. Wen Renha led the increasingly silent Yin Hanjiang back to his room thinking about his next move. The content of the third volume told Wen Renha that Beili Qingmiao not only couldn't die but must also accept her divine personality and have enough power to suppress this innate goodness. Otherwise all living beings in the three realms will return to chaos. Beili Qingmiao must cultivate the merciless path. However, there was a mystery that kept Beili Qingmiao from archiving Tao. After every heavenly tribulation all her feelings would be completely cleansed, leaving only the attachment to He Wen Chao. Who did it? The heavenly Tao or the former He Wen Chao? No, it should be neither. Wen Renha, who didn't understand feelings, pondered over the question he didn't understand and couldn't help but ask the person beside him. Patriarch Yin, what does it take for a person to tell themselves countless times to forget someone, yet they can't forget? Every time after making up their mind they repeat their mistake and cannot get rid of it. He was just asking casually. After all, Yin Hanjiang was also a person who did not know much about love and affection. Wen Renha didn't expect to hear the answer, but Yin Hanjiang answered. It's because he himself can't forget and doesn't want to forget. Wen Renha turned back in surprise and saw Yin Hanjiang looking at him intently. Their eyes met as Yin Hanjiang spoke. This subordinate, Patriarch Yin, is right. Wen Renha said. You reminded this venerable. The only person who can make Beili Qingmiao give up was herself. The divine personality was a part of her from birth. After being ripped off by the innate deity, the powerful divine personality gained its own consciousness. It was born to be obedient to the will of heaven and to become one with heaven and earth. Using the power of the heavenly tribulation countless times to influence Beili Qingmiao's mind, it forcibly injected her feelings for He Wen Chao into her divine soul. Heaven and earth need to be emotionless and loveless, so do the innate gods. Focusing on one person's emotion, you simply were not able to accept the divine personality at all. In the ending of abusive love affair, Beili Qingmiao had obviously gotten her divine personality, but suddenly came out with thoughts like, the elder martial brother doesn't like me to kill people, and the teacher teaches us to think for the sake of the world. In fact, she failed in subduing her divine personality. Only a strong mind with pure ruthlessness and great love for all things in the world without distinction was good enough to become an innate god. Beili Qingmiao forcibly contained her divine personality and failed, which led to the subsequent series of events. No one influenced her. What controlled Beili Qingmiao was always herself, or rather heaven and earth. Beili Qingmiao must cultivate the merciless path. If she cannot accommodate her divine personality, it would be better to just kill her, not letting her to form a soul contract with anyone, so when the heaven and earth reshuffled it would be better than the end of last volume, which was the imagination of one person. Chapter 45. Discipline is unwilling. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 45. Discipline is unwilling. After figuring out this section, Wen Renha took out abusive love affair and wanted to see how Beili Qingmiao was being treated at this time in the Shangqing sect, which needed to deal with the matter of Qiu Congxue's exposed identity. He had already read the book many times in front of Yin Hanjiang without avoiding him, but Yin Hanjiang never peeked at the contents of the book and just gazed intently at the side of Wan Renha's face as he read. What happened in Purple Spirit Pavilion caused readers to discuss passionately. Wait a minute. Wait a minute, what's going on? The male lead's wife, the final female rival in the novel, has become a man and wants to marry the heroine. What did you eat, author? I don't know what author ate, but I know that the plot is so exciting that it started to climb popularity gold list. First we need to discuss whether the Purple Pavilion Master is still the original character. In the original plot she tried to assassinate the heroine because she loved her and wanted her to see what kind of scum He Wenchao is. I think it's the original Purple Spirit Pavilion Master. What happened is probably that the original Purple Spirit Pavilion Master is dead and there is a new one now who has fallen in love with Bailey Qingmiao at first sight. A new handsome and rich male lead. I am looking forward to it. Wake up upstairs. The real boss Wan Renha expressed dissatisfaction, lurked in Purple Spirit Pavilion and face-slapped Purple Spirit Pavilion Master, before overturning half of Taiyin Mountain. Devil Venerable is too handsome. Reading this novel now is like riding a roller coaster. In 1 second Purple Spirit Pavilion Master wanted to marry the heroine and in the next he was beaten like a dog and taken by Wan Renha. You can't even become a fan of characters in this novel because they can change their face at any time. Upstairs is right. I was a fan of Immortal Qingxue who turned out to be the left protector of the demonic sect Xiao Zongxue who directly took care of Bailey Qingmiao's elder martial brother and was even more ruthless than Sister Xu. At most, my sister Xu just took out the nascent soul but Xiao Zongxue took out the whole soul directly. Do you Xianyuan sect left and right protector practice 9 clouds white bone claws? The famous technique of never looking back. My Shui CP really melted and dispersed, turning into water vapor. The heroine is hurt by the deception of mistress and her whole person feels broken. Hugging the female lead. I have a question, why before the revision when He Wenchao abused the heroine I just wanted to beat these scum men and women but after modification when Xiao Zongxue betrayed Bailey Qingmiao I just want to cherish the female lead. I also don't hate Sister Qingxue, covering face. Because of different positions, the female lead and Qingxue are not wrong. Qingxue also didn't seem to hide her identity as ghost cultivators and it was us readers who were blind. Selectively ignoring her mistakes, maybe it's because, she was too straightforward. When Renha left with Purple Spirit Pavilion Master, leaving Zhong Liqian. So the second male appearance in the end is for what? You want to marry my daughter, but this old father doesn't agree and wants her to stick with Li Qian. So he beat these 2 lovebirds up. The angle of the person upstairs is strange, but it can be regarded as a reason. Bailey Qingmiao pulled herself together. First she rushed to the Sea of Flames to save dozens of lives in Purple Spirit Pavilion and even obtained mature lock core herb. Woo, what a peerless woman the female lead is. I was wrong. I don't hate white lotuses as long as they are really kind and selfless. The true white lotus is really fragrant but I am afraid that Bailey Qingmiao will be abused when she returns to her sect, but I'm going to keep reading. Probably not, after all, the heroine has recovered the lock core herb. She contributed a lot to Shangqing sect so how could they abuse her now? As readers guessed how to deal with Bailey Qingmiao master and disciple, there was controversy in Shangqing sect. After getting the lock core herb back to the sect, He Wenchao wanted to ask the well-known medical cultivator Jia Ping of Cultivation World to prepare a prescription for the master of the Shangqing sect. He Wenchao happened to meet Jia Ping when he was looking for a way to save the sect master and became acquainted with him. As for Bailey Qingmiao she was temporarily placed under house arrest in the Deacon Hall and not allowed to go out, waiting for the sect master to wake up to decide what to do with her. As for the Purple Spirit Pavilion disciples, the Shangqing sect arranged a place for them to live in the outer courtyard. After they accept the fact that their sect has been destroyed, they will decide what to do next. If they are willing to join the Shangqing sect which was recuperating after the massive demon war of righteous and demonic path they were more than welcome. But they will have to surrender the Purple Spirit Pavilion's cultivation method before they can join. In the original book, the Purple Spirit Pavilion Master married He Wenchao, so the two sects also merged together and cultivation methods were exchanged, so there was no big change in the plot. He Wenchao returned with medical cultivator Jia Ping one day. Jia Ping, who wore green robes, was born because he was a scattered immortal. His face looked very young and quite handsome, but compared to male lead of abusive love affair he looked a lot worse, but still a lot better than most people. He quickly refined the pill, and after taking it, the sect master of Shangqing sect woke up. Bailey Qingmiao was now considered to have made a great achievement, which made it even more difficult to deal with her. After waking up and hearing about what had happened in the 30 years of his coma, the sect master sighed weakly and said, "The battle between the righteous and the demonic path is not a trivial matter. It is also not something I can decide alone. Ask the Deacon Hall elders to invite the sect members above the soul transformation realm to discuss this matter." In this way, the meeting was held in the council hall of Deacon Hall. Bailey Qingmiao and her disciple Xiu Huai sat in the middle of the hall, surrounded by more than 20 fellow soul transformation realm disciplines. The crane-hair scholar Zhong Liqin had a special status, so Shangqing sect invited him as a guest. He could not only be there but also express his own opinions, but wherever they would be approved would be decided by the Shangqing sect. Bailey Qingmiao's face was pale as she sat in the middle of the crowd. But she still was able to have enough energy to pat Xiu Huai's hand comfortingly. Her gaze was firm, it looked like she already made mental preparation. Since she was a direct discipline under Elder Qin Rong, she spoke first. Bailey Qingmiao did not know that Qiu Zongxue was a member of the demonic sect. She was responsible for rescuing the disciples and there was nothing wrong with saving people. Qiu Zongxue joined the Shangqing sect not by Bailey Qingmiao's decision, but by the unanimous consent of the elders at the time. This time the lock core herb was also obtained by Bailey Qingmiao from a sea of flames at her own risk. I can guarantee with my own soul that Bailey Qingmiao never betrayed the Shangqing sect and she is my very good disciple. Bailey Qingmiao's cheeks showed a hint of red as she listened to her master words, a small smile appeared on her face. "But, my soul is in Qiu Zongxue's hands," Lu Xinye said gloomily. It was Bailey Qingmiao who gave over 7-colored blue lotus heart to Qiu Zongxue, who then forced me. There were two main opinions in the Shangqing sect. One was of Elder Qin Rong, who deeply cared about her discipline and believed that Bailey Qingmiao was innocent. Another was Lu Xinye, who thought that she must have had some secret dealing with Qiu Zongxue. Bailey Qingmiao had been traveling with Qiu Zongxue for 30 years, so maybe she already joined the demonic sect and returned to the sect just to continue being undercover agent in Shangqing sect. Saving the sect master was also just for the show. Maybe the lock core herb was not mature after all and it was given by Wen Renhe from Purple Spirit Pavilion Master so Bailey Qingmiao could go back to the Shangqing sect. Zhong Liqian didn't speak during this time, so it seemed that no matter how Bailey Qingmiao was treated he did not care. He Wenchao also kept silent. After all, the person who advocated severe punishment for Bailey Qingmiao was his wife Lu Xinye. He looked at Bailey Qingmiao's pale face, but his younger martial sister never looked at him. Finally, he couldn't help himself and ignoring Lu Xinye's pleading gaze he stood beside Bailey Qingmiao and said, "Master, senior uncles, fellow disciples, all of your words were heard by me, but can you listen to my words now?" In the past 30 years, He Wenchao's position in the sect had become more and more stable. Although he was a junior, his cultivation was higher than many elders, so his words carried a lot of weight. The crowd's eyes were focused on He Wenchao, who said, "There is no doubt that Junior Martial's sister Bailey obtained the lock core herb, which proves that she is loyal to the sect. The current controversy is whether the junior sister was controlled by Qiu Zongxue in these 30 years of travel, which is also already well resolved. Junior Material sister had saved Qiu Zongxue's life and has her token in her hand. Why not ask Junior Material sister to ask Qiu Zongxue to come out so we can secretly ambush her and kill her? In this way we can not only free inner sect discipline Lu Xinye from the soul oath but also kill the demonic sect protector." His method would not only save his junior material sister from crisis but also help Lu Xinye release the soul oath. For He Wenchao and Shangqing sect it could be said to be the best of both worlds. Several elders of the Shangqing sect deliberated and found it reasonable. Lu Xinye also had no reason to refuse it. Bailey Qingmiao, are you willing? Elder Qin Yu of the Deacon Hall asked. Bailey Qingmiao in front of the crowd stood up from her chair, knelt down on her knees and put her hands on the ground as she lowered her head to say. Disciple is unwilling. Why? Qin Rong and He Wenchao said at the same time. When it was discovered that Qiu Zongxue was a member of the demonic sect, Bailey Qingmiao was also hurt. She was also deceived. Bailey Qingmiao knocked her head so hard that her forehead was already red when she raised her head. She shook her head and said. Master Qingxue has never done anything to hurt the Shangqing sect since she came. After the massive demon war, the Shangqing sect suffered heavy losses and its position as leader of righteous path was in danger, until the news of a guest scattered immortal spread. Then other sects did not question the status of the Shangqing sect, giving the sect a chance to breathe for 30 years. During 30 years of travel, Master Qingxue has successively exposed the Nanguo family's evil techniques to cultivate the air. In Bijou Valley, disciples captured innocent wandering souls to refine quasi-immortal weapons. The Buddhist cult imprisoned women to cultivate joyful Buddha and many other events. Bailey has been with Master Qingxue for 30 years and has seen her actions with her own eyes and heart. She is a member of the demonic path, but she never deceived me. She also never said that she was from a righteous path. It was Bailey's decision to save her. Yes, the righteous and the demonic path are on opposite sides. If there is another war and Master and I meet on the battlefield, it will be a different situation and Bailey will never show mercy. But using her life-saving grace and using Master Qingxue's trust in me to frame her, Bailey Qingmiao doesn't want to do it. Her gaze was firm as she looked straight at the elders at the top and said. Bailey knows that she is not guilty, but it's a crime to cause elder brother to be injured by Master Qingxue. It is also a crime to let Sister Lu's soul to fall into the hands of a demonic path cultivator, so Bailey is willing to bear all the punishment of the sect. Her back was straight, and her little shoulders seemed to carry the whole world. Zhong Liqian gently applauded and said to the Shangqing sect's crowd. Miss Bailey makes Liqian admire her, so Liqian will not plead for her and not hinder her choice. After he said this, he stopped speaking, as if Bailey Qingmiao's death or life had nothing to do with him. But everyone knew that Bailey Qingmiao and the crane-hair scholar had been struck together by the compulsion gu, so if they really wanted to kill Bailey Qingmiao, Zhong Liqian would definitely not allow it. Younger martial sister. He Wenchao squatted down and grabbed Bailey Qingmiao's shoulder saying. Why are you so stupid? Don't touch my master. Xiu Huai casually took out his rod. As soon as He Wenchao saw this rod, he felt pain in a specific place and let go of Bailey Qingmiao. Lu Xuanye saw that He Wenchao had touched Bailey Qingmiao in front of her and her face twisted into horrendous expression as she screams. Bailey Qingmiao has been bewitched by demonic path, I beg the master to get justice for me. The Shangqing sect was put in a difficult position, with Zhong Liqian on the sidelines, they could not easily deal with it. After deliberating for a while, Qin Yu said. Bailey Qingmiao, the sect has decided to imprison you and Xiu Huai in the back of the mountain. I hope that it will give you time and come to a clear understanding soon. If you end up not realizing it, don't blame the sect for cleaning up the sect. Bailey understands. Bailey Qingmiao's expression was bland as she accepted the punishment. Bvec she and Xiu Huai were pressured into the back mountain forbidden area, and were imprisoned just like in the original plot. In the original plot, Purple Spirit Pavilion Master was going to marry He Wenchao after saving and waking up the sect master. She said that Bailey Qingmiao had a calamity body, so she must be locked up, otherwise she would affect the entire Shangqing sect. The Shangqing sect did not believe it, thinking that she was jealous of Bailey Qingmiao's relationship with He Wenchao. Unexpectedly, the cultivator who knew how to predict the future was invited, and Bailey Qingmiao's fate was actually crimson. Heavenly tribulations were not as serious as her calamity, and no one knew what kind of demon she was a reincarnation of. In this chapter, all readers, the female lead rival Purple Spirit Pavilion Master, was the one who framed Bailey Qingmiao. But it was not the case. When Renha knew that the Master Fortune Teller had not lied, Bailey Qingmiao was really a calamity, and her fate was also like this. In the book, Bailey Qingmiao did not believe that this was her fate. She also refused to accept the treatment of the sect and be locked up for life. How miserable it would be. But now it was quite different. Bailey Qingmiao insisted on her own principles, and was protected by Zhong Lijian. Although she was still sent to the back of the mountain, she had a clear heart. After she was imprisoned, He Wenchao came at night to persuade Bailey Qingmiao, but she said to He Wenchao, "Senior material brother, don't make me a backstabber. Don't be a man who betrays his trust and justice, who has a wife but cares for other women. Don't ruin your image in my heart." In this way, He Wenchao could only return defeated. That night, he didn't share the room with Lu Xinye, and just gritting his teeth said, "It must be Wen Renhe and Qiu Zongxue who wanted to hurt the sect and used some despicable way to control the younger martial sister. How can I save younger martial sister?" Well, the blood demon ancestor who was living in He Wenchao body smiled grimly. "I do have a method, but I need you to lend me your body for a while." He Wenchao hesitated for a moment before he agreed, regretless of whether it was abusive love affair or the god of destruction. It didn't show what happened next. After all, these two books were written from the perspective of male and female leads. After He Wenchao lent his body to blood demon ancestor in the god of destruction due to vague writing, completely did not mention what happened. Having 3 books in his hands, he could observe the plot at any time, so it was surprising that the plot blank would suddenly appear when He Wenchao tried to deal with him. What caused the plot blank? When Renhe was clear. After all, what was written in the books was only the tip of the iceberg. However, it was because this blank appeared while targeting the Shenyuan sect that Wen Renhe became more vigilant. Could it be that? He remembered that the God of Destruction, Volume 2, had not been found so far. Could it be that the second volume was different from the other 2 books, or that the person who got this book was so clever that he had hidden his tracks from it? When Wen Renhe thought over the content of the revised version, he found that one person's name did not appear in the revised version at all. Tsinjingqi. Edited by Ninja, proofread by Neo. Chapter 46. Luring Snake Out of the Hole. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Since the Wen clan had been exterminated, Wen Renhe had long since developed the habit of preparing for the worst in everything, and would not take any chances with anything. He would never think. Maybe it wasn't Tsinjingqi, it might not necessarily be known that the plot has changed. He always needed to think of the worst result first. At present, it was known that the Purple Spirit Pavilion Master did not know who had the first and second volume. Similarly, the owner of the second volume did not know about Bailey Qingmiao and her divine personality. According to the plot of the 2 volumes in hand, it could be deduced that the story of the second volume was about He Wenchao flying into an immortal world. In the first volume, He Wenchao's younger brothers also ascended one after another, so it was also possible that the second volume owner knew this from the synopsis. When Renhe died at the end of the first volume, and the most powerful person in the second volume was Immortal Emperor of Burning Heaven. After getting the book, Tsinjingqi has 2 choices, one to recognize He Wenchao as the protagonist, and focus on being his little brother and mix his life with him. Second, not willing to be subordinate and in due time snatch the male protagonist opportunities to become the strongest person. From the time when the first and third volume appeared, it could be presumed that the second volume also appeared 30 years ago. In these 30 years, the name Tsinjingqi did not appear in the revised version of Volume 1. A person who takes the trouble to befriend another person, will certainly appear early and devote himself to help. For example, although Wen Renhe had no intention of befriending Bailey Qingyao because he had no ill feeling toward her, appeared 10 years ahead of the book plot. Readers also commented that Wen Renhe appeared far earlier than in the original plot. Qin Jingqi did not, which means that the first possibility of wanting to be the younger brother was very slim, so he went the other way. He should be a person with ambition and brains. What will he do at this time? Wen Renhe had always been less ambitious and not quite understanding his Xianyuan sect subordinates, but he could ask them. Qin Jingqi was a man, so all 4 altar masters were unreliable. As for the 2 protectors, let's forget about Protector Qiu, but Protector Shu was even killed by He Wenchao and Qin Jingqi in the book, so she couldn't be that person. Call the right protector. Wen Renhe said. Yin Hanjiang listened to the order and summoned the right protector. Shu Yanyan flew to the main hall of the general altar. She was still properly dressed, but her face was a little flushed. Apparently she was cultivating just now. Protector Shu, this venerable has a matter that he doesn't understand and needs you to resolve for him. Wen Renhe said. Venerable master, please ask. If this subordinate knows something, she will say it. Shu Yanyan said meekly. Wen Renhe. If one day, you get a heavenly book that can foretell the future, and it's clearly written in the book that Wen Renhe will die and you become the patriarch of Xianyuan sect. But afterwards, you will ascend to the immortal realm and become the subordinate of someone and assist him in killing immortal sovereign along the way. With this book, you can predict the future, so how would you act? Shu Yanyan. Her heart was frantic. Could it be that the venerable knew that she wanted to wait for an opportunity to kill him to become the new Devil Venerable? Then ascend to the immortal realm, and after years of lurking she would take out the immortal world leader. Was he testing her now? She thought about it again, and felt that it was wrong. She wanted to be a Devil Venerable. Was there even people who didn't know about it? Did it still need to be concealed? No, Venerable was not such a petty person, and he always encouraged Xianyuan sect disciples to be ambitious. This matter couldn't be this simple. So Shu Yanyan said with a smile. Venerable must be joking. If this subordinate gets such a book, she will definitely not let Venerable die. Venerable cultivation is so strong, how can this subordinate willingly kill you? If I could. She raised her head to look at Wen Renhe, but before she could look at him her eyes stung by Yin Hanjiang's killing intent. Shu Yanyan saw that Yin Hanjiang had put on a ghost mask at some point, so his eyes looked red under the mask and much different from his usual appearance. Venerable, she pointed at Yin Hanjiang. What's wrong? When Renhe turned around and saw Yin Hanjiang standing behind himself holding his sword as usual, only the tips of his fingers holding the sword were white and seemed to be in pain. When Renhe squeezed his palm and said in a gentle voice, "Don't worry, Patriarch Yin, this venerable will not die easily. Also I promised you that after my death, you can go to the Yellow Springs with me." Yin Hanjiang pulled out a puppet-like smile, as if every muscle was rigid and needed to be molded with his genuine qi. There was also no emotion in his voice. This subordinate will follow orders. With such an order, Yin Hanjiang probably wouldn't go crazy. When Renhe nodded his head and turned back to continue questioning Shu Yanyan. Shu Yanyan. No, Venerable, Patriarch Yin doesn't look like he wants to obey your orders at all with this look. He put on this mask again, and his eyes looked as if he wanted to kill someone very much. Shu Yanyan had been in the demonic sect for many years. She also followed the old patriarch, so she was accustomed to seeing all kinds of demonic cultivators. But she had never seen Yin Hanjiang like this, as if he was crawling out of the inferno, eerie and terrifying. Her strength was already close to the peak of the Mahayana realm, but she was so frightened by a mere void realm that she took a half-step back. Patriarch Yin's strength was not right. Protector Shu. When Renhe's voice was tinged with impatience, he was still waiting for Shu Yanyan to answer. Shu Yanyan calmed down her heartbeat, feeling that this answer seemed to be a death sentence no matter what she said. If she said something false to flatter her lord, Wen Renhe would not be satisfied. If she said something true, the way Yin Hanjiang looked now, it didn't seem she would be able to beat him now. With a dilemma on both sides, Shu Yanyan said. If it were other protectors or altar masters, they would probably use this ability of foresight to secretly lurk around waiting for the opportunity to kill Venerable and eliminate the enemy. If it's about the immortal world, kill them together, seize the opportunity and kill both of them to become the true God. But this is about someone else. This subordinate would definitely give the book to the Venerable, never letting Venerable encounter the slightest danger. Then she said to Yin Hanjiang wearing the ghost mask. This subordinate is absolutely loyal to Venerable. Only after saying this did Yin Hanjiang slowly remove his mask in front of Xu Yanyan, tilting his head to look at her and slowly pulling out a smile. Xu Yanyan. She suddenly felt that the Venerable must stay alive. If the Venerable really died, then probably no one would be able to control Yin Hanjiang, this fierce beast. With Xu Yanyan's words, Wen Renhe fully understood Tsinjingqi's thoughts. The first step was to collude with the blood demon ancestor to kill Wen Renhe and take over Xianyuan's sect. The second step was to find details about the immortal emperor of burning heaven and kill him. While appearing submissive to He Wenchao but actually waiting for the opportunity to strike. The third step was to kill He Wenchao. Since the other party hid and even his tail couldn't be seen, it was better to take advantage of the situation and frighten the snake by luring it out of the hole. After Wen Renhe made up his mind, he said to Xu Yanyan. Call the left protector and the 4 altar masters to come to the main altar. This Venerable has something important to discuss. Xu Yanyan, the problem just now, what problem? Xu Yanyan had a sudden amnesia. Have Venerable asked me a question just now? Very good. Wen Renhe smiled. The right protector was very effective, and in less than an hour the most important people of Xianyuan's sect stood in main hall of the general altar. The last time everyone gathered at the general altar was before closing the sect, and before that it was a meeting about massive demon war, so they didn't know what big deal it was this time. When Renhe scanned the expressions of all the people, except for those who were eager to know what was happening, the rest of them were all ambitious and eyeing the position of Devil Venerable, Qiu Zongxue the most undisguised among them. I believe you all know that this Venerable has his eyes on a disciple named Bailey Qingmiao from Shangqing sect. Wen Renhe said. She is exceptionally talented, and this Venerable wants to cultivate her as a rival. Natasha's great importance to her. However, she is now being punished by the Shangqing sect because of Protector Qiu, so this Venerable is worried that the disciple he fancies will have her spiritual roots drained by the Shangqing sect. I wonder, what do you think? Qiu Zongxue wanted to make a suggestion but was silenced by Xu Yanyan, who transmitted to her. I know you have no brain, but this time listen to my advice and don't speak first. Protector Qiu froze, which preempted Altar Master Wan. Altar Master Wan said. The Shangqing sect is already at the end of its strength, let's force them to hand over Bailey Qingmiao. This Venerable fear that they will not comply. If they hurt Qingmiao, my disciple will no longer be good. Wen Renhe said. Xu Yanyan. Was it just her illusion that the Venerable words just now seemed to reveal a hint of affection for Bailey Qingmiao? No, he deliberately spoke in this way to make others feel that he seemed to have secret feelings for Bailey Qingmiao but did not want other people to know, but in fact he just wanted to use Bailey Qingmiao as bait. She closed her mouth firmly, not daring to say a word. She can practice ghost cultivation instead. Qiu Zongxue shared worries with Wen Renhe. I don't want her to be hurt. Wen Renhe stared at Qiu Zongxue. Protector Qiu, you are Bailey Qingmiao's master, don't you have any compassion for her? The last actually carried an unprecedented anger. Qiu Zongxue froze, wasn't changing to ghost cultivation reflecting her care and fondness for Bailey Qingmiao. She had taken out her best method and refined Purple Spirit Pavilion Master, so when Bailey Qingmiao turned into a ghost cultivator and swallowed Purple Spirit Pavilion Master, she would immediately be able to become a Mahayana realm cultivator. She was very concerned about her disciple. Venerable, Before Qiu Zongxue finished speaking, Wen Renhe waved his sleeve and sent her flying, making her spit a mouthful of blood. That's enough, you bunch of useless things. This Venerable will think of the way. Wen Renha got up angrily and gave Xu Yanyan a brief glance before leaving. Xu Yanyan, the most intelligent woman in the Xianyuan sect. Cough cough, what is wrong with Venerable? Acting in such a way. Altar Master Shirtan trembled and relying on the fact that he had 3 points of beauty leaned toward Xu Yanyan and said. Protector Xu, I have become Altar Master just a short time ago and only saw Venerable a few times, so I don't know him well. Can you give me some pointers? Cough. Xu Yanyan understood the task that the Venerable gave her and was worried about having an opportunity to speak. Hearing Altar Master Shirtan opening, she touched her chin and said. You asked the right person. From my point of view, spring has come for Venerable and he has fallen in love. You mean, the eyes of the 4 altar masters except Xiao Zongxue lit up. Who would have thought that such a cold-blooded man like our Lord would like such a clean, simple and innocent woman? Hey, if I had known that Venerable liked this type I would have played it. Xu Yanyan deliberately said with a regretful expression. I have seen a lot of men, but a man like Wen Renha whose heart was unmoved for hundreds of years and does not understand love, once his heart is moved, it's like an old house catching a fire, it will become uncontrollable. If he likes me, it'll really be for the rest of his life. Who, like who? Xiao Zongxue, who just climbed up, asked. After Xu Yanyan saw her, her smile disappeared and the expression on her face became indifferent. Anyway, it's not you. So, Bailey Qingmiao now has a place in the Lord's heart and can't be touched. Xu Yanyan smiled wryly and left after speaking these words. That night, a person in the room holding a book, flipped through a few sentences, whispering. I thought that when Renha infatuation with Bailey Qingmiao and fighting against Yuan Chao for her was just a fake story. A person like Wen Renha who is so cold-blooded, how could he infatuated with a woman? But now it seems that he really has fallen in love. The man, whose appearance could not be seen in the shadow, kept looking at the book and muttered. But when Renha should also have the book, does he not know about his death? Is this a trap, or is it an opportunity? He picked up a transmission talisman, which was given by Blood Demon Ancestor with Yuan Chao body at the beginning. According to his speculation, as long as the Blood Demon Ancestor occupied Yuan Chao's body, what happened should not be recorded in the book. Therefore he did not reveal his true name when he came into contact with Yuan Chao, and only when Blood Demon Ancestor occupied Yuan Chao body he revealed his identity. Wen Renha, Blood Demon Ancestor, Yuan Chao, Bailey Qingmiao, none of you will know your intentions, even if it's a trap. As long as I am careful not to reveal my identity at any time. The man thought hesitantly. Okay, if you want to lure a snake out of his hole, I will be a fisherman. Regardless of who wins the battle, the final victory will be mine. The man in the shadow of the lamp finally made up his mind and secretly sent the transmitting talisman to Blood Demon Ancestor. After Wen Renha angrily reprimanded his people, he calmly returned to his room. Yin Hanjiang said. If Venerable wants to save Bailey Qingmiao, his subordinates can break into the Shangqing sect and will save her even if it cost his life. Hearing these words, Wen Renha body froze, seeing Yin Hanjiang's sincere expression of willing to go and die for him. Just like the description of male lead number 4 in the book who silently guarded Bailey Qingmiao. Wen Renha moved his lips, not knowing how to explain it to Yin Hanjiang. The reason why he avoided Yin Hanjiang seeing the book context of abusive love affair was because the book plot only changed halfway and the second half was still of the original plot with countless scenes where Wen Renha sacrificed his life for Bailey Qingmiao and even give up his life in the end. Wen Renha himself did not want to read it and much less let Yin Hanjiang do it. The second half of Wen Renha death had not been, no matter if it was abusive love affair or the God of Destruction, Volume 1. He thought about it and could only confess. Bailey Qingmiao is very important, not only to this Venerable but also to the entire 3 realms, so this Venerable has to help her. Yin Hanjiang half-kneeled in front of Wen Renha and quietly listened to his lord's words. My lord is not hiding anything from you, perhaps there is one person who knows more than this Venerable. But he is hiding in the shadows, so this lord is trying to draw him out this time. The words just now, there are both true and false, it is indeed an act for him, but whether it will be successful this venerable is not sure. Wen Renha said. Yin Hanjiang boldly held Wen Renha's hand, his voice very restrained. Is venerable in danger? I'm not sure. Wen Renha shook his head. The other party may not be weaker than me, so your lord has to use this opportunity to solve the hidden danger. My lord will not die. Yin Hanjiang said almost stubbornly. This subordinate will not let his lord die. Who knows, planning is in the hands of man, success is in the hands of heaven. When Renha sighed, his blood cultivation was also a hidden danger. Yin Hanjiang saw his expression and felt the alcade sword jump a little. He squeezed the hilt of the sword and hid the menace under his eyes. Edited by Ninja, proofread by Neo.